Xbox One X outsold PS4 Pro.
Let's talk about that.
Hello and welcome to episode 34 of Triangle Squared. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, here for lucky number 34.
Good man. So,
Yes, sir.
yet another week has gone by.
We really haven't talked a lot this week. We sometimes say that for the show's sake.
Blaze was like, I texted Saul this week. I was like, I haven't.
Yeah, like I've talked to Blaze before I talked to you, and I texted you yesterday, and I was like, oh, it's Friday. We need to discuss a topic. Because for those that want a little background into the show, is we don't really discuss a topic till Friday, sometimes even Saturday.
But Saul, before we get into what you've been doing with your life, I want to say, if this is your first time joining us, this is Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. We air every Monday at 10
a.m. Central or Pacific.
There you go, 10 a.m. Pacific.
You pausing
noon Central. I got you.
Me up.
On YouTube in a video format or on podcast services around the world for your listening pleasure.
I actually had I don't want to call it a fan interaction because I'm not a douchebag, but I had somebody I was talking to in person that.
Well, you're not a douchebage because we're not big enough to have.
Well, I don't want to say I was talking to a fan.
Well,
I was talking to
even
a
then,
friend.
I want to say we are not. We're right at the right size to where pretty much everyone who listens to us is just a friend at this point. So.
I was talking to a friend of the show in person, and you just messed up the table.
I'll fix it.
We're all lopsided now, but I was talking to him, and I told him that it's. I had to think for a second. I'm like, oh yeah, it's at 12. It's at noon. I'm like, I should never have forgotten that.
Well, you don't ever. You're never the one who goes in and flicks them.
I've heard it. Oh, hey, well, yeah, you're right. Turns them on
to
view. Sometimes you're late too. I'll be sitting there at home waiting for that noon upload, and I'm like, it's not here yet.
Normally happens on Mondays where me and Hannah eat lunch together because I'll end up screwing around trying to get there in time.
Makes sense.
But aside from all that, good sir, who was the fan? Out of curiosity.
Sean.
Oh.
Yeah, not we have like 3 Seans on Twitter, but it's Sean in our town
in real life. Yeah, Sean in real life
that we technically went to high school with. I
forget about that all the time.
Yeah, and I didn't know a whole lot of people younger than me, other than you and my brother. And then
I think he's slightly older than me.
Friends.
Actually.
Oh, is he?
By a year, but I'm not completely.
I had no idea.
You were 2 years older, right?
Yeah, I am.
I
2
don't
years
know.
older.
Anyway, Saul, what you been doing this week? What you been playing, if anything? I've played a lot, so I'm gonna let you go first.
I've played a lot, but it's only been of 2 games.
A lot of 2 games.
A lot of
what
2 games. Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn, technically working my way up to Heavensward expansion, and then of course Stormblood expansion.
Did you make a new character, or are you just still rolling through some of the late game stuff you didn't mess with in the first character?
Well, no, I made 6 characters, I think, total now.
Why?
Wait, no, I can count them. It's 2 Dragoons, or 2 Lancers, whatever. Or a Lancer, a Dragoon, a Paladin. And I made a new Dragoon when I got back into it, but I realized that low-level Lancer is really boring. And I wanted to start something completely new, so I started a Thaumaturge, which is it's the...
Weird word.
It's a pre-class to the Black Mage.
Sure. Okay, I got you.
I am basically a fire mage because...
Do they have it set up in this one where your class is judged basically off of your job, or is the job or is the job system separate?
Your class, I may have this reversed. Let me think. Because I am a Thaumaturge, but my job would be Black Mage.
Okay.
And they've actually changed it. When I last played before Stormblood in 4.0, they had stats that you increased. So obviously, if you're a Dragoon, your DPS, you never want to put anything other into stats other than strength. They don't have that anymore. You just level up and it just levels it up for you. Because it's kind of pointless because you never split stats half the time.
Yeah. You never half the time.
Well, yeah, you never would do it. Some people would for min-max stuff, just kind of minimizing and maximizing their stats out. But they also incorporated a new thing where I hit level 30 Thaumaturge, and that's where I would go pick up my Black Mage soul. And then my Black Mage, if I remember this correctly, would be level 0, and I couldn't have nothing else equipped because I am thinking of that wrong. They used to have a class in between that would have to bridge them, and you'd have to get that class in between to level 15.
Okay,
I don't remember.
So almost like opening up subclasses, but
kind of, yeah. Like I don't remember what it was for Lancer, but I remember you had to, it might have been warrior or something, but you had to be a lancer level 30 and then get something up to level 15 to unlock paladin.
Okay, yeah,
they got
sense.
away with that middle step. So now I just went and got a black mage soul, and I've started on the black mage quest, and I'm still kind of going through the story.
Do you feel like those changes, which sound like just ease of use changes,
It's just a quality of life improvement.
exactly? Do you feel like those are part of the reasons that a lot of people seem to come back on top of new content?
Yeah, on top of new content, me myself, I just got really kind of, just bored of the game, really.
Back when you were playing it a lot?
Because I played it.
You played a lot, I remember.
Well, I'm doing what I did back then, which is bad because I'm liable to get bored of it again here in another 2 months or so. But also, when you get to level 50 paladin, which is what I was, the raids become so big that there's 2 tanks. There's I think it's 12 man, and there's 2 tanks.
My neck just sounded awful.
I know, I heard it. It sounded satisfying. But there's 2 tanks, and that was pretty not stressful, but it became more of worrying about how to play. And because when you're a tank, you are the lifeblood of the party. You are leading.
Sure.
You are getting aggro and stuff of all the enemies.
Is the Bard class still in existence?
Yeah, the Bard class is actually the so Thaumaturge goes into Black Mage.
Sure.
Archer goes into Bard.
Okay.
Because it's a ranged DPS, and Bard is all about...
Does Bard not still have healer spells, like where you can run it as a healer setup?
Healer, I'm not too sure. I do know that it does have...
this is going off my old and very limited knowledge of Final Fantasy XI.
Oh, well, you played 14 before Realm Reborn.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I played it A Realm Reborn, but right when A Realm Reborn came out.
Okay.
And I didn't play just a ton. I played like maybe 10 hours, 15 hours.
Yeah.
Which is not a whole lot in the scope of an MMO.
So if I'm thinking right, I didn't play... That's actually another class I did make was Archer. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And I did not like that. I didn't like playing as a Bard. And I remember there being... They're all like songs that do stuff, buff party strength, buff their health, But I don't remember anything actually healing a person. I may have not gotten that far, and it's been February, I think, is when the last time I played that game. Yeah.
I don't know.
But for those that who've never played an MMO, I highly recommend it. It's basically free up until level 35. You can't join a free company, which is like a massive clan. And you can't do a couple other things. I think you can't message people back and forth.
It's like getting your feet wet in the game to see if you actually want to put time and money into it.
I would
which
say,
is what a lot of games have been. I mean, that's like WoW. WoW does that.
I would say 30 though. You're good. You're deep in the game.
I was saying, but you're getting your feet wet to see if you want to delve into.
Being
what do you want to say?
Yeah,
I mean, what do they call that? Like in Destiny, it's post-game stuff. What are they?
Post-game content. Just
whatever. Where the stuff you play after you've beaten like the main quest and stuff. It's in-game basically. If you're gonna get into in-game stuff, and then MMOs, it's kind of weird because you want to grind it out in weird ways because you're supposed to. That's kind of like the loop.
Well, yeah. Like main quest line almost has no level caps. Basically, if you really just don't do a lot of content or anything, you will hit a level cap one day, and you just gotta grind up a little bit to get to it. I've never come across that before. On any of my newer characters. I think I did on my Lancer, because I didn't do side quest, or I wasn't in a good free company that had a experience modifier on. If you get in a good one, like I get an experience boost now for everything I do. I'm actually level 39 on my Thaumaturge, and I started playing on Tuesday. So that's actually a lot, and it's mainly because I know how the leveling system works. I know how the experience system works. I know every dungeon now that I go into, or raid, like instance raid, I think is what they're called. So I know that I can't mess up on any of those because I know them so well. And I pretty much know the map, and I know, how to travel and get around quickly. Whereas back when I first started playing, one of the hardest things to overcome about the game was the UI.
Okay.
By far.
Yeah, I didn't love the UI in the beginning.
There are some things you could do to tweak it. I typically turn like my crossbar stuff, which is where you hold it.
But I never played it on PS4 either.
You should.
I played it on PC.
Honestly, you should. You should just try it because it is super duper fun. But
what else have you been playing though?
I'll say World War II.
Oh yeah.
Pick that up.
I forgot you said you were gonna pick it up. Yeah. And
I've been pretty much, if I get to a point in Final Fantasy where I'm at a big part where my character can't progress levels very quickly, because like I said, main quest you can keep on doing that all day every day without hitting word block. Your class quests are every 5 levels. So when I get to like level 36 and I know that I have to grind 4 more levels out to go do my next Black Mage quest line, I kind of
Take a
like
break.
I'll take a couple hours right here and play World War II, or just quit playing altogether for the night. And so I've been having super fun with that. But you said you've been playing a lot. What have you?
Okay, so SteamWorld Dig first.
Yeah, on the Vita.
I'm fairly positive, and with the amount of time I've put into it and the way that the game kind of tells you things, you constantly keep getting new things as you continue to go. And as you bring up stuff from the ground, like the I'm trying to think of the wording, I guess, but the gems and stuff that you bring up, as you bring those up and you sell them, you level up your little person. I'm not really sure how that ends up working out, but it's like I'm not sure if that's tied to the game's ending, because where I'm at seems like a big part of the ending, and I'm at a part where I'm leveled up the I guess she's a seller. I mean, it's like where you go and sell your gems, but you level her up, and as you continue to level that up, you get new things unlocked that you can go buy. And I've got most of the stuff bought that you can buy. So what I'm doing now is about ready, and I was going to do it yesterday before we ended up changing around to what I've also played. I was going to do that, ended up quitting because I picked up Skyrim VR.
How was that?
Surprisingly good.
Really?
And really fun. And I'm doing the movement like I told you I was like interested in, which is free, smooth movement where you just hold the left move button in and it moves you forward. And then, like, it's set up to where, like, if you do this, you go straight. If you hold out to your side, you'll kind of like strafe right, straight left. And if you want to go backwards, you can hold it up beside your head and you'll walk backwards, which is fine. You get used to it. And then you can, on the right move controller, if you hit circle and X, which are the left and rights on the both sides, then you can flick the camera so many degrees so that as you're moving, you can kind of turn accurately. But that's really good. Outside of that, I've also beat Assassin's Creed Origins. I played a little bit of The Division with Seth because he was on one night, and I was going to hop on and just mess with him, and then he was in the middle of a mission. Ended up just playing with him as a mission me have already done.
Right.
And I got to level 10, which is nothing crazy. Speaking of which, Ryan wants to play tonight if you're down to play. I meant to tell you that when you got here.
I'll have to see with all the Thanksgiving stuff we got to cook up because we got to do Thanksgiving.
For tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah,
I got you.
A little early.
So anyway, that's an option of what we can do. But I played that, and I picked up, like I said, Dishonored. I'm about to probably start that. Definitely if we don't play Division
just the first
tonight.
one.
Well, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, not Hack.
Okay. Well, no, I'm talking about like the first Dishonored.
Oh yeah. What do you mean?
I thought that's what you picked up.
Oh no, that's Death of the Outsider.
Gotcha. Okay, it looks just like
because you don't see it underneath where it says Death of the Outsider.
No.
Yeah, it's Death of the Outsider, and which I think I'm going to beat it before because I'm at a point now
5 hours long, isn't it?
I can hop into that and beat it before I have to worry about completely committing to .hack being my series that I play for the next month or so.
Yeah,
so
I got to do that to Persona.
I mean, so similar to you, I've played 3 games, but I've played like a whole lot. Oh, I played Diablo 2. We're just chipping away at that 500 bounty trophy. So still 2 trophies away from platinum, working on that. But
okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's been a fun week. Just playing crap. Donovan's been over a few times. He came over yesterday and Thursday. Jonathan was over last night. Jonathan and Dylan came over, and Donovan. We were just like rotating out who was playing. I was going to invite you, but when we went to go get food, I saw your car at work. So I was like, well, he can't come.
Yeah. I did not get off work till 10 last night.
Yeah, so anyway, we ended up staying up till like 3 o'clock in the morning playing Skyrim VR.
I wouldn't have done that either. Y'all would have seen me and at 11 o'clock head out the door.
It was Donovan's first time playing VR since the one time he did it here with the Resident Evil demo. And he didn't play that very long, but he played Skyrim quite a bit, and he got like a little sick feeling and kind of tired, which is not surprising. Like one of your first real times going into something like that.
I got a little like that during Resident Evil.
He jumped off the mountain, and that was the thing. And Jonathan did it too. Like it got me. And I was doing it, but I didn't jump near as high as them.
I kind of want to try that.
It's like they jumped off and it made them sick because it's such a high drop, but they didn't feel any kind of impact or anything from falling.
I want to try that.
So I don't know. I think you'll really like it. It's pretty funny. The coolest thing is like being able to have a spell in each hand and like shoot the spells different ways or pull them together. The bow and arrow is way harder than it was in the normal game because you're really doing it, but it's way more satisfying. When you kill somebody with a bow in this game, you're like, I did it.
So can I play Skyrim VR with my controller?
Yes, you can play it with DualShock 4.
So I can play it with my controller and then look around with my head.
Yeah,
is that one of those weird things that could trigger motion sickness?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm just telling you, for immersion's sake, we were using the Move wands and absolutely perfect.
Well, the way you have to like do the little whatever you said, where you have to like hold it out to turn and stuff?
No, you don't have to hold it out to turn. You can do it to strafe or move back.
See, now that's where it'd kill the immersion for me, because if I'm like doing like this and I'm trying to like fight somebody in real life.
Yeah, no, but what you can do
things.
otherwise is you can just hold the left move button and you'll move forward, and then with the right stick you can hit the circle or square and you'll just
do the 180 or whatever.
It won't be a 180. You can set the degree to what you want, and you can make it where it's instant, where it automatically flicks, or it does a gradual, where when you hit it, you see the camera swing.
Yeah, if it did a 180, I mean, that'd probably make me sick.
Yeah, no, that would definitely.
Straight front to
I
back.
think you'll be surprised. Donovan and Jonathan and even Dylan were all three surprised at how fun it was and how good it was. It was really surprising.
Huh.
And really fun. And I played Farpoint. That I knew. I was like, I'll play something else. I played Farpoint on VR because randomly, now that I've beaten Assassin's Creed, I was like, I have so much more time on my hands. I feel. I was like, what am I going to do? I've played Farpoint twice this week and gotten quite a bit farther. And all the stuff that excited me about it that I never got to before, I ended up just getting out of it because the gun was acting weird. Gun hasn't acted weird at all this time, but I did move my camera up.
Yeah.
So maybe that was what it was. I don't remember the game telling me that before, but that did work, and it helped with Skyrim when you're standing up as well. But a lot of the stuff's cool. Like I came up to a new gun. It was a shotgun, and it has you take the gun controller, put it sideways, and like reach out to where the gun was, and then you pick up the new gun, which was cool.
That is cool.
And then the way that you switch out the guns, and the game has just got really clever design in a lot of ways, because it's like, how do you make it more fun on VR where you're not constantly worried about picking up new ammo and stuff? None of the guns use real ammo. Like the shotgun, when you go to reload it, there's a little screen on the back of the gun that you can like look and see. And the first gun you have is a machine gun that does it, and it'll overheat. You can't. All it does is
fire all you want.
Yeah, and if you overheat, you have to wait a second before you can fire again. But the shotgun does use shells, but the way it's set up is like you have 8 shots in it, and it has a secondary fire that's a grenade launcher, and you can pick up the grenades, and they'll show up like when you're walking around. You'll see them like sitting on a crate, and it'll have like a little hologram thing off that says.
And
grenade
you have
ammo.
to like pick them up.
Yeah, you just go and touch them.
Huh.
Anyway, but whenever you're going to reload the shotgun, it like pulls in atmospheric pressure and then like clips it, and that becomes a bullet. And then when you go to shoot it at people, it's really cool.
So it's almost like a pressurized air gun.
Yeah, more or less. But it's
cool.
it's a shotgun the way it does.
Yeah.
But anyway, whenever you want to switch out guns, it works really well. You can do it by just hitting triangle on the little PSVR aim. But what you can also do, and like it's what they said, but actually doing it feels so good. You just do this. So with the gun, I just let go with one hand, do that, and I pull it back out, and just doing that, it's like you're pulling the other gun off your back.
Yeah, so it's almost like this generations of holding a VR gun and aiming down to like reload.
To reload it, yeah. It's really interesting, but yeah, you'll do that, and you pull out your whole different gun, and the guns have different, like obviously the shotguns can't shoot very far, so stuff like that's pretty cool. I've been impressed with Farpoint. And I wish with all the Game Award stuff going on, it got nominated for something, and I wasn't able to give it my vote of confidence because I didn't beat it. But I didn't, it's one of those things. A couple of categories I didn't vote because I didn't feel like I could fairly vote.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Anyway, I'm gonna hop into the news real quick before you go into the drop because
the drop is we're abysmal short.
Wait,
too.
4 games? Because I have 4 news points. 5 actually. So we got a
5
little bit
games.
more. 5.
We're tied.
Okay, we're tied. Okay.
Go ahead and go with it.
I'm gonna hop into this.
We're breaking
real quick.
structure on you guys.
Yeah, screw structure. First thing up is that THQ Nordic have announced the complete acquisition of the Biomutant IP as well as the game's developer Experiment 101. Now, I put this on here because I thought it was interesting that they are so aggressively going after these people. Obviously, they see a lot of potential in this game.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, THQ Nordic have done a lot of ballsy moves that apparently it must be paying off for them, or they have endless cash flow, something. But Biomutant was already going to be published by THQ,
right?
But it was owned by Experiment 101, and the studio was not owned by, so it was all separate. It was going to be basically them acting as a publisher for this independent developer.
Yeah.
Well, now they've acquired the team, and these are ex-Avalanche Studio people, which is the team behind like Just Cause and Mad Max. So a couple of big open world games. So I think that this is interesting. I still think that Biomutant shows a lot of promise and a lot of interesting things. I hope that the game ends up being really good. And I think, again, THQ Nordic is just ballsy as hell.
Yeah, somebody posted on Twitter when they announced that. Somebody said, just like EA, huh? Because they bought somebody out, then they're gonna publish the game, and THQ actually responded saying, "No, we didn't close down any of these studios first."
Yeah,
so
that is absolutely true. They don't have too many studios, but it's weird seeing them this aggressive because they also put out D-Blob last week.
Yeah.
So they're just getting after it. They're putting out what they can. They put out all the Darksiders games. You're moving the table, Saw.
I barely moved it.
Look at that. You screwed up the camera square. There we are. Anyway, next thing up, EA have completely turned off, and everybody knows this by now, but hey, in case you've been living under a rock like Saul, EA have completely turned off the microtransactions in Star Wars Battlefront 2 amidst the continued drama surrounding the game's use of them. They claim to keep them down until they make changes to the game systems and will announce more details at a later date.
They have temporarily taken them out.
It's interesting because here's the thing. They don't need to be permanently out if they find a way to set it up to where, again, how drastic will the changes be? Nobody knows. Apparently, I don't know if you saw, there's articles about, apparently a lot of the reason this was done is because Disney came and talked to them.
And
so with Disney being behind this and wanting this to be a success, what we may see when they finally come out to talk about it again is that all heroes are just unlockable with in-game currency that you gain at a normal rate, and that the only thing you can buy with money is it's to be a point where it's all just physical. Oh, hey, you look a specific way over this. That's fine. Cosmetics are fine.
Yeah,
and if that's how they go forward with this, then that's okay. But what do you also feel like if they kind of took a little bit of a Star Wars approach to it, which I don't know the game because I didn't play the beta. Can you get different guns and stuff, or you just play different characters? Is that how the whole game works?
I do not remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I played the beta, and I played like 2 matches, same level. I got the droid. I can't think what they're called. Like not the Empire, but like whatever. They might have been called the Empire actually, but it was like whatever team the droids play for in the game. I got that twice.
Okay.
So I played the same level twice, and it was the same game twice. So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Okay, I got you. Well, anyway, the whole situation is weird, but I mean, good on them for taking it down, even if it meant pressure from someone else. And I think that regardless of why, the fact that they kept putting out, things saying, hey, we hear you. Apparently we screwed up. We're going to try and fix it. It's overall a better situation than what it could be, but EA has had a lot of unfortunate stuff happening lately. So
somebody pointed out that they did say in their article that balancing is something they're going to take into detail with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, balancing and making sure that.
That's curious. Somebody pointed out that's a negative
thing. The pay-to-win tendencies hopefully go away.
Well, no, somebody was saying that they may make it even more. They may make it more pay-to-win to figure out how the balancing could work with. Like, they want to basically add it back in later when they figured out the balancing of pay-to-win and normal play. So they're only doing this so that people who play to win.
So you're thinking of balancing being okay, yeah.
It makes it sound like
I got you. Where it's still in there, but it's less impactful.
Yeah, it's still in there. It's still impactful, but it's less impactful. I'm still not picking it up until like next year when it's on sale for like $20. So.
I don't know. It's a weird situation. I'd like to see them completely 360, but I doubt they will. And I don't completely disagree that a microtransaction system is the worst thing in the world. No, but the controversy surrounding it made a lot of sense. Definitely with the whole article that went on with EA saying their thing back to the guy on Reddit that got the most dislikes on Reddit ever or some mess.
Ever. Like it was like 600,000 last time I looked.
It was so crazy.
Boogie2988, he made a good video about it saying, Overwatch is the shining example of put it in your game, cosmetics, can be. Yeah, and it works out so well. They still make tons of money off of it because people like to show off their skins, and then it does not affect gameplay.
Yeah.
So it's a good point and an agreeable point.
Next thing up, just kind of interesting that it's even on here, and I'm curious as if we're going to see it crop up again. Probably not, because I'm sure sales have been low enough. But Activision's Deadpool game is being delisted from digital storefronts. Originally released in 2013 for PS3 and 360, it was delisted in 2014 before being revived again in 2015 after the success of the Deadpool movie. So what I'm curious about is it's being delisted again. This is the second time now because...
So they added it back after that?
Yeah, the remaster that they did...
I didn't know they did a remaster.
They remastered the game for PS4 and Xbox One. The remaster and it coming back as a digital game in general came after the fact that the Deadpool movie came out and did so well.
Right. That makes sense for them to do. But
so now that the license has expired again, they don't want to pay to renew it because it's expensive and they're probably not making enough money off of it. So they decided to let it go into the black again. But I wonder if we'll see it pull back up whenever Deadpool comes out again. It seems unlikely.
It's crazy though. They did that the week of the Deadpool teaser, like the actual teaser trailer.
Well, but it's not about them doing that. It's about if they renewed now, they'd have 2 more years. And is it worth it? You know what I mean? I don't know, man. It's going to be a weird situation.
It sounds like it may be, but those movie games.
I'd be curious to see how much.
That's not a movie game. It's just a comic book game.
Yeah.
But
it'd be interesting to see, and I'm not going to look at that just out of sheer curiosity, how much the remaster made. Was it financially worth it for them?
I'm going to assume that the work they put into it, because it wasn't a full upscale remaster. It was 1080p 60. Same textures. And
yeah,
everything.
and then it was
little work was required for that.
But you still had to rebuy the licensing out. So the licensing is probably
I guess
expensive.
it depends on how much the licensing was paid to how much it went.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see though, regardless. So
made.
Well, Saul, with the continued weirdness of the Final Fantasy 15 franchise and everywhere where it's going, Tekken 7. I'm sure you've seen this.
Give me a
has
new
announced
Soul
that
Calibur game.
Noctis from Final Fantasy 15 will join the roster in spring 2018 as DLC, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We'll get this last thing out real quick. The last interesting thing, I mainly put the Noctis thing on there because I don't know if you watched the gameplay. It actually looked really cool, and I'm not even that big into Tekken, but it looked well done.
I'm not big into fighting games at all, really.
Yeah, I played Injustice finally, good story, but wouldn't
Smash
keep it
Brothers
around.
is the only one I'll play consistently.
Yeah. So anyway, with all that being said, I thought it was interesting. I wanted to see if you'd scoff at it, but you've kind of calmed down on Final Fantasy 15. So, did you see all the cool crap people are making with the Comrades character creator though? It looks pretty good.
No, I was all on the Comrades thing when we were talking about it last time.
Yeah.
I've not kept up with it. I know it's releasing real soon.
I mean, apparently it's
out. Yeah, it actually might be out as of time of recording.
People have been making weird stuff, but anyway, next thing up, and this is the last thing on the news, is that for the month of October, Nintendo took the top 2 spots with the Switch and the SNES Classic, respectively. This is the 3rd month in a row that Nintendo has outsold the competition. I mainly put that on there because I think it's interesting to look, and it almost goes into the main topic a little bit of we're at a point where the consoles are still in their mid-generation area, and of course, market saturation's hit very strongly. Numbers are going to start to slow down at least a little bit, and of course, something new, even if underpowered, like the Switch. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I just mean it's underpowered. There's no way you can look at the Switch and go, okay, this is anywhere as strong as the PS4 or Xbox.
Right.
Even the originals.
Even though it's amazing how well they got Doom to run on that thing. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't, but Skyrim ran pretty well. And apparently they did confirm, they never said originally, but they confirmed that it is the special edition Skyrim running on Switch.
It is?
Yeah.
I watched a review for that from ACG, I think is his name, and I didn't hear him say that, but it looked amazing.
Digital Foundry is the one who went into it.
That's a good one, yeah. That's a good one.
And they talked about it, so that's pretty interesting. And I'm still curious to see, and I want to get a breakdown because no one's confirmed whether the VR one is based around the special edition or if it's based around the original. I have a feeling it'd be based around the original to give it a little more performance to squeeze out, but I don't know. It's a very interesting situation.
Fighting a leg cramp.
But with the whole Switch thing going on, I just think, of course, Switch being the new thing, it's not even a year old yet. Of course it's going to sell. I do think it's interesting that the SNES Classic for the 2nd month in a row has outsold the PS4.
That is nuts. I guess Nintendo did deliver that promise of keeping those more in stock because I have seen those actually now in the wild. I only ever saw
and of course and how do you hit that number if they don't keep making new ones? So of course they're doing it. I mean,
because I only ever saw one Nintendo Classic and I picked that thing up. It's the same question I asked when I saw a Switch box. I asked the Target employee, is that a display or is that an actual box with the console in it? And they're like, no, that's the last one we have. Bought it instantly.
Yeah.
But both, and I didn't even do that with Super Nintendo because we called ahead and I'm like, do you guys have this? I'm like, we got 2 left. I'm like, put my name on it. We'll be there in 10 minutes. So,
well, with the whole situation around all that, it's just, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, my general thing was I was like, well, it makes sense. It's good to see for Nintendo. I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah.
And a big thing is that the first month that it outsold PS4 was only on market for 3 days.
Now, is it the reverse that I'm thinking of? Is that Sony may be getting some agreements with Nintendo to use some of their characters? Is that what that is? Or is it like license? They may be getting licensing agreements with Nintendo to use some of their property. Have you heard about that?
No.
That's something that I need to look into while I'm thinking about it. But yeah, Sony may be using stuff for Nintendo from what I remember reading.
Like, what do you mean? Sony stuff running on Nintendo products or Nintendo stuff running
running on Sony products. So I don't know how, and I don't remember where I saw that article from, but I remember seeing.
I'm going to look into that, and if you find that, let's post it on Twitter. That's pretty interesting. I'd like to actually read into that.
It is, but for those that don't know, I'm a huge fan of the Switch. I love it. Got Super Mario Galaxy, loved it. That's Odyssey. One reason you got Odyssey. That's one reason that I think that the Nintendo Switch did so well this month is Odyssey coming out. That it went head to head.
Oh, absolutely! If it didn't do well this month, I'd be surprised.
It went head to head with Breath of the Wild at the Golden Joystick Awards for Game of the Year.
Yep.
Got beat out by Breath of the Wild, but it is still a super fun game. So good for them. I think that I've said it before. I think that the best thing you could do right now in terms of being a gamer is own a PS4, a Switch, and a decent gaming PC if you care about stuff Microsoft has. If not, a PS4 and a Switch are the way to go. You get the best of both worlds. You get
variety.
You get the best RPGs. You get the best just fun to play games like Mario and like Sound Shapes if you're a masochist and Splatoon. And so you get the best of both worlds, and you get a strong home console and a strong handheld.
And I think my biggest thing, I had this conversation with someone yesterday whenever I was going to anyway, yesterday I was on Facebook and one of my buddies was talking about enjoying a Switch, or he was actually talking about are there any games that have recently been coming out for the Xbox, and he was like, trade your Xbox in and get a Switch. And I said the problem with that statement is that trading in a PS4 or an Xbox to get the Switch, in my opinion, is not a good idea because the Switch does not get enough third-party support on its own that for a good majority of the time, you would just be waiting while other games are coming out you're missing, and you're just trying to wait for Nintendo to put out an exclusive.
What are you talking about?
Specifically, he was saying like trade in your Xbox to get a Switch, and I was like, I wouldn't do that because you're going to miss out on all the third parties that do not support the Switch.
But in this case, did they have a PS4? Is that what you're saying?
No, they had an Xbox, but I'm saying.
So they're saying to take the only primary console.
Yeah, to take the only of the PS4, Xbox One, and trade that in to get a Switch. I was like, I just don't think the Switch is a better complementary console.
It depends.
It is a console that complements having a game console like the PS4 or the Xbox One that does get the typical third-party releases, because there's plenty of games you would have missed out on if you just had a Switch. South Park, not on the Switch.
Well, yeah, it does depend though
Shadow
on what
of War,
kind of
not on
games
the
you
Switch.
like, because there is really a lot of games for the Switch. It's just, and it depends on if you're like me. I prefer handhelds. I like sitting down in bed playing it. I like watching Netflix.
I don't prefer handhelds as an overall. I like handhelds. To me, they exist completely separate. That's what I want.
I prefer handhelds. Not saying like there's something wrong with like sitting down playing PS4.
No,
I've always heard the weird analogy of like they don't want to play a PC game because they want to sit on their couch.
Like, you can do that.
It's like you could do that. Like I sit at my computer desk and play PS4. Like we both do. We don't have like you do have a couch in the living room, but that's like more of a media PS4. But it's like, I think that it is the best. You get literally the best of both worlds, and you get the biggest IPs that are worth playing to me. You get Zelda, you get Mario, you get the Dark Souls series on PS4, Bloodborne, of course, Last of Us series, Uncharted series. And then you can play, like for me, Disgaea 5 would be better on Switch than PS4 because I can play it on my couch. Yeah. And tactical games are great on
because Disgaea I wouldn't play on my PS4, but I was playing it on my Vita.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
It's just certain things, like Thumper. I wouldn't play Thumper on my PS4, but playing it on my PS or my Switch, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's what I told him is I agree. The best console thing you can have right now for the best variety and missing out on the least number of games is to get the PS4. Because he said this year's been bad for gaming. I was like, if you had a PS4, this year's been fantastic for games.
Technically, if you just had an Xbox, like there's been a lot of good multi-platform games.
There's been a lot of but that's been the end of this year. If you've had a PlayStation and you've had a Switch,
because you had the first half of the year was Horizon, Nier, and Persona, Neo, and that was just in the first like 5 months.
Crash Bandicoot was in June. It's exclusive for now. Hellblade, if you were talking about consoles only, Hellblade.
Yeah, I could see that being more of a niche title, but yeah.
But I'm just saying these are games that, regardless of how niche, because Gravity Rush 2, January. I mean,
I thought Gravity Rush 2 did so bad. That's why they're shutting down the services.
No, but don't worry about it. It's not about sales. I'm saying games, and Gravity Rush 2 did fine in terms of critical reception.
I thought they only sold like 130,000 copies.
I don't think I've ever seen anything when they announced that sale, but
and I could be thinking about something else.
It doesn't matter, but I'm just saying that the game critically did well.
Well, it's there on Xbox or on PS4 when Xbox didn't have a competitor to come out with it.
Yeah,
because they've had exclusives like Cuphead. Cuphead, honestly, not all PCs can run it. Most PCs can probably run it. My PC definitely can run it because I beat it on there.
And your PC is not even really.
It's
your
not
PC is outdated.
Yeah, it's
far.
like a 360 to a PS3 is what the performance I've gotten out of it is what it feels. I can play 30 frames per second, 720 or 1080 on some games. Cuphead got 60 frames, 1080 on medium to high settings, but that game would be worth it if you had an Xbox. Play that, then sell the Xbox to get the Switch. Like that's. What was the one game that came out for Xbox that was a oh man, it was made by Gearbox, maybe? It was the one where that's like a girl and she has a little robot companion.
ReCore.
ReCore, yeah.
And that wasn't Gearbox. No, that's actually Indie Crates or whatever, which is...
Who published it then? Somebody big published it, I thought.
Microsoft published it. It was an exclusive game for PC.
No. That was on Xbox One.
Yeah, that's what PC, Xbox One. That's where I was going with it. It was exclusive to Microsoft. It was ReCore. It's the guy who made Mega Man's game. I can't remember his name.
Oh, no. The guy who made Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, he's the guy who created Mega Man.
Mega Man. That's what I was thinking of in my head when I was like, something big was in this game that did something else.
Yeah, isn't it Indie Crates? Go down and look. Or Armature.
Armature.
That's right. It was him, but it wasn't Indie Crates. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, like that's just my opinion on it. Get a Switch, get a get the staples for that. Get Breath of the Wild, get Mario Kart, Splatoon, and then grab a PS4 and get the staples on that, and you're gonna have quite a good setup. And then, of course, if you care about performance, like a ton, PS4 Pro, and then a PC, and then with all those combined, you will not miss out on a good title. You'll have the holy trinity: gaming PC, a PS4 Pro, and a Switch.
Okay, I mean, I agree with that sentiment. But if you can't own a PC, which some people just can't,
Yeah, I mean,
and some people can't understand them, even though they're less complicated now than they've ever been.
And cryptocurrency right now, like mining, that has drove up the
prices of a lot of things. Yeah, yes, it has.
Like it was like a month ago, I was looking at card prices, and you can get a 1070, or you can pay like $80 more and get a 1080. And it's like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, there's so much value in a 1080 compared to the 1070 for $80 more bucks.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm gonna hop in the drop real quick and get that out of the way. We have Axiom Verge for PS4 and PS Vita, a retail release, which is cool. That's weird. Also coming out on Switch retail, which is just a super cool game to have.
Battle of the Bulge
for PS4.
Stripper game, not really.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it really? The art looks cool in that game.
That's an actual historic event.
Oh yeah, you're right. I had to dig deep into the history class for that one in the back of my mind. We have Monsters of the Deep Final Fantasy 15 for PSVR.
That's that fishing game.
Yeah, it is. We have Planet of the Apes Lost Frontier for PS4 and
I'm not
for
joking.
PSVR.
I kind of legit want to at least look seriously into Planet of the Apes just to see how well it was done, because it took a lot of inspiration from Heavy Rain and Quantum Dreams formula.
I can't think of Andy.
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis. Is he going to be in that game as a motion capture?
Yeah, he was.
That'll be cool.
He is.
But since we have a weird structure of this, I'll go ahead and get the user questions out of the way, since we have 2 and an answer on a mission.
Do it.
We have W Squared coming in. Did you guys enjoy the SOCOM series? This was my real introduction to online gaming, and it really needs to be either remastered or a proper reboot. That was back when people communicated in games. Now all you hear is the newest rap song blaring over game audio. I played SOCOM 2 on PS2, and then, was that right? Or is that Fireteam Bravo on PS2?
That was right.
And then PSP one. PSP one.
Well, Fireteam Bravo was PSP one, actually.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. So SOCOM 2.
SOCOM 2 was SOCOM 2, and it was a PS2 game. And then the PSP got a lot of them.
Never
actually,
played
a
online.
lot of them.
Yeah,
it
never
got a lot
played
of
online
Battlefront games. Do you remember Battlefront Elite Squadron? Rogue Squadron, whatever it was called? They got a Battlefront game.
That was the one that came with the one Seth had, right? The Vader PSP.
Was it? I think it was.
That was a good game.
It was.
That was a really good game.
The Battlefront stuff was pretty weird on PSP, but they were fun.
But I was a fan of SOCOM back then. I am not really into third-person military shooters, though. So other than SOCOM, we've talked about it briefly in the past, but I know you're a new listener, so no issues with that. But it's pretty much that I would always be up for a reboot. I'm almost up for any kind of reboot of a video game that's older.
Just to see how they're going to flip it on.
Just to see how it's going to do, to see if it's a new fan resurgence, and if it's one of those things that I missed out on, I can go back to. I didn't miss out on these because I played SOCOM around the same time I played Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter and Rainbow Six Vegas. Me and Ryan were talking about how good Rainbow Six Vegas was.
Coming into the early 360 days.
Yeah, oh yeah. So those games were fun. I don't remember a whole lot of them. Weapon customization was cool. Is what I do remember out of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm for it. I played SOCOM 2, but that was very, very, I barely played it. My uncle, who lives up in Berryville, and we went to go see every now and then, when we'd go see him on Christmas, he'd play those, and he'd actually play them online, so I'd play at his house a little bit. But for the most part, my SOCOM stuff ended up starting on the PSP, and it was hit or miss. Like, it was okay. I liked it all right. But the first SOCOM that I just really liked and had a lot of fun with and played a very big amount of, you remember playing a little bit of it with me whenever I used to come over to Ed's house with Seth, a SOCOM Confrontation.
Yeah,
the one that was
PS3
online
game.
only. I loved that game. It was fantastic. That game was really fun. And a lot of people I know really liked that game. SOCOM 4 was a big letdown in a lot of ways. I picked it up because
I heard it had really bad performance
It
issues,
supported it supported the PS Move gun,
which is super
sharpshooter.
weird. Yeah, it's a super weird kind of move for them.
Yeah, but it was okay, but it wasn't great. Just like Resistance 3 had a couple of issues with it. Like really the best game for sharpshooter was Killzone 3, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of time with the series. I mean, it's not like it's something that I just played a ton of. I'm very interested in the idea of a reboot though, because I do like third-person shooters, and depending on how they go with it, I'd like the idea of it. Definitely with what they could do, I'd like to see. If nothing else, it sounds like a weird thing to say, but I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of SOCOM coming back in a Division style like game.
So
Not that-
that'll be interesting.
Not that everybody would necessarily agree with that. I'm sure there's people that just want traditional SOCOM. But I
yeah.
think there's ways that they can make SOCOM feel new and fresh for some people who don't believe that the original idea can be done right, by letting it kind of blend in with what the Division's done with third-person shooters with this always online thing. Now, of course, it can still be traditional military style. That's fine. I don't really see why there'd be any reason that wouldn't work. But, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, what else we got here?
We had...
Oh, yeah.
Alabama Gamers. He said, I'm interested in what you guys think are the best deals for Black Friday, since it's next Friday. I really try not to buy games after August in preparation for the sales, as it makes my gaming dollar stretch further. In response, Scott Fontana said, by far the best game for your buck is Injustice 2 for $14 from GameStop. Although that was a May game, so maybe you have it. I have a holiday gift guide pinned to my local feed if you want more recommendations. I briefly checked it out. I do recommend you guys check it out too. He's quite a good list. But not really a Black Friday person. I know that the VR is going to be on sale for $300, which I think is a cool price.
That's a good move, I think. Yeah, with all the stuff going on and all the big games coming for it in the coming months, yeah, I think that's a really cool move on them, and it's affordable enough.
Yeah, and other than that, like, I really
Assassin's Creed at Best Buy, I think, is going to be $35, which is impressive because the game just came out and it's been doing well.
Well, and Sony has like a sale
going on literally right now for PS Plus users
that has Assassin's Creed for $30 too.
Yeah, see, that's a good. That's a good deal for newer games. Now, I get where he's going. It's actually a really smart thing to do if you do have to be a little more money conscious with your gaming, or if you just like being money conscious in general and you don't really need to, but you want to wait and save. That's smart. I don't think I'd have been able to even pull that off this year because I'm already behind on stuff I want to play.
I still got to get through Persona 5. Like, that's I have to do by the end of the year. That and Nier Automata. Why do I do that? Yeah, Automata. Automata.
It's Automata.
Yeah.
I hate when people say Automata.
I do too.
I'm like, God. It's automaton is the word that you would think about the pronunciation of it.
And we did have another question. He may have deleted it. So I'll go ahead because I remember what it was, but it's not there anymore.
He tweeted it to us as a completely separate thing.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, you're talking about Sean No Fate, and I have.
Nope.
Oh, what are you talking about then?
Let me look real quick. Just to double check, because it was actually an interesting question. We don't mind personal questions on these things, like favorite food, stuff like that. We started the whole question thing and what we've been playing to kind of let you guys know and on our personal kind of lives, just not limited to PlayStation and or video games. I don't see where it was, but it was Sir Herps was his name.
Oh yeah.
And he asked, what do we do? What do we work? What's our professions?
Yeah. Where did you see that?
So I don't know. I can't find it. So I don't know if it got deleted or if I just can't find it. But basically, yeah, he was wanting to know what our professions are in real life, and
he said make something up.
Make something up. I'm not gonna make something up, but I am gonna be very vague about it because I do know my company has a really strict policy about any kind of social media and announcing where we work. But I work for a pharmacy. Now, Brett, I don't know about you, because yours is kind of a personally
owned thing,
like family kind of business, but at the same time,
no, I don't care.
Okay,
I work for a place called Leadwell, and I started on out there. They actually make like farm trucks and farm equipment that's custom made, and they're really big. Guys got a lot of money. He's big. He has a lot of presence throughout the country for people who need farm stuff.
If you're ever on like a highway and you look at a diesel truck, you can look at it, and most of the time, the mud flaps and other parts of the truck will have Leadwell on them.
Yeah, or if it's like a water truck, which is like a big barrel train truck and stuff like that. But yeah, we sell stuff like mud flaps and stuff like that. But he bought out a company called Office Source that was going under, and whenever I was working for him for about a little over a year, they liked me so much that they decided to move me up into that company because they needed somebody for their logistics on the furniture side. So that's what I do. I'm head logistics for furniture for Leadwell Office Solutions. It's not extremely fun. They're moving me up into sales, or at least trying to transition me to that. So I'm doing sales at the same time right now. So it's not extremely fun, but I make good money. If it wouldn't have been for my wife wanting to go back to college, we'd be doing really well because she made pretty good money where she worked, but she wanted to go back to college and switch career fields. But we still do okay. It's not putting us in any kind of financial straits. It just means I have to be a little more careful occasionally about getting really dumb about my spending. And
don't let what they say about money go deep, because I have now seen where I can have all the money in the world. I never have time to play video games. Don't you agree?
Oh yeah, you're talking about.
It's like we
in the pursuit of making sure you make enough money, you lose out on being able to play video games to an extent.
Yeah, because like.
But don't get me wrong, I make it. That's me. I don't watch very much TV.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I would argue that you watch more TV than I do, and I know you don't watch a lot.
No, well, yeah, I watch TV shows more than anything.
And you're also more of a cinephile than I am. You like movies a lot more than I do typically.
Yeah.
You go out of your way to watch movies more often. There's a million movies you've asked me, like, hey, have you watched this? And I'm like, nope. So, I mean, it is what it is. I like movies. I don't have anything against them. It's just my main form of consumption of, like, entertainment is done through gaming. Instead of watching TV, my stories come from video games. That's why I very much like narrative-driven games. That's where my pool is, because I feel like I get the stories that I love that are great out of video games instead of TV.
Yeah.
And that works a little bit better because you get them in a more or less self-contained instead of having to wait once a week to watch TV. I hate that. When I do watch TV, I binge watch. And it's Netflix, Hulu.
That's pretty much what I am. If I watch TV, it's one show and it's all of it. And then when we're done, we move on to something else.
Me and Netflix came to a 7-year ending due to the removal of How I Met Your Mother.
Are you serious? Are you actually going to cancel it?
I already canceled it.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
So what do you use now? Hulu?
Hulu, because Hannah has it. And How I Met Your Mother is apparently on Hulu, but so is Drake and Josh, and that's important to me.
Oh, yeah. Kenan and Kel was on Hulu last time I had it, too. Which
I think it still is. It has a lot of great stuff.
It
has that, and they've added Boy Meets World, and now that I've seen that apparently How I Met Your Mother is on there, I'm all good. Because I was freaking out. I was like, how am I going to watch Slapsgiving on Thanksgiving without Netflix having my show?
Get a better taste in TV show.
Hey, you hush your dirty mouth, sir.
Man, I'm mad that Netflix removed Scrubs, but even then, when it was on Netflix,
and they're removing Always Sunny.
It wasn't Scrubs.
Huh?
I said even though when it was on Netflix, it wasn't really Scrubs because it didn't have the soundtrack, the right soundtrack.
Well, no, but it did for the majority of the time it was on there. It was only right before they removed it that they did that. It was only on there for like 8 months.
Color correction on this camera is different. My hands look super orange for some reason.
Maybe but anyways, my screen, I don't know.
Yeah, but. I use Amazon now mainly. Amazon and you get like a discount on HBO Go with Amazon. So we have HBO Go, Amazon, and Netflix, and that takes care of everything. Like we watched John Wick 2 last night, and it was great. Fell asleep.
I just don't watch enough TV for that to matter. Hannah gets Spotify and Hulu for $5 a month because she's a student.
That's not bad.
So me canceling Netflix, I don't have to pay for anything.
But since I couldn't find the tweet or whatever, I don't know what happened to it. If you deleted it, shouldn't worry about it. But yeah, it's he mentioned something like how we used to say that now that we can afford it all, like this is what we do or something.
Yeah,
I'm taking it
and
off.
I've been in the same position for 4 years, or in the same position for 3.5 years actually.
And I've been with the same position for almost 5 years. Yeah, January will be my fifth year being there. But yeah, like for those that really want to like grind out their life and make all that like extra money. And then you're not gonna have time to do everything you want.
Enjoyment starts to go a little bit down. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like my company. I make a lot of money, and there's good options for career where I work.
Yeah,
and it's better than. I mean, I much prefer what I do to yours
because it's your
spastic schedule. I don't like
customers every day and stuff. But if you're listening and you're maybe a younger person, don't try to rush into like being stable. Because I would argue that our two families together, we're pretty like we're we have our stuff together for adults our age.
Yeah.
Like we're really like I think we're really well off for our age group. But to get there can be stressful, and you don't always have time to do everything you want, which is why you hear
give yourself a little time to be young.
It's just one of those life lessons that you pick up.
I would agree with
that
because I don't know if you know, I'm 24 and saw you're 26.
26.
Yeah. So being 24, I do feel like I have my life put together more than some, but I would argue that maybe they still have more fun with their life than I get to. But I do what I can, and I do have a child. I have more responsibility than even you do in that sense. Yeah. And I have a wife, but you're almost there. It is what it is. It's not a huge deal
to be married one day.
It's just, it's an interesting thing. I think sometimes allowing yourself to be young for a little bit longer has its advantages. And don't rush into relationships and stuff like that. I love my wife. I have no problems with that. We've been together for 7 years. So, it's not something weird. We've only been married for 2 now. Yeah, about to be 2. So it's not like something we rushed into. But.
Yeah, and see, me and Annie, we've been together 7 years as of last Sunday, whatever the 12th was on.
Yeah, because yours is like right behind ours.
Something like that, yeah, because we started dating on 11/12, and Skyrim came out on 11/11.
Yeah, so me and Hannah started dating on
2 days I'll never forget.
3210.
321. Oh,
which is weird, right?
That's cheating.
Real easy to remember. So,
but anyways, for those there that are here listening to us about video games, we'll stop talking about our personal lives. But yeah,
personal lives are overrated.
If you ever see us talk about or post or whatever for the question you want to ask us, don't ever limit it to video games if you don't want to. If you want to know things about our personal life or our opinions on other matters, try not to do politics. That's the one thing I don't want to get into because I don't like politics at all.
What do you mean?
I don't like talking about politics. I don't care for politics. It's just a web of a disaster. But yeah, if you want to know like our favorite foods, whatever, our favorite movies, whatever you want to hear, just ask us. We'll never bite.
Okay, well, Saul, but for the most part, people are here to hear about our opinions on video games and just hear us talk out of our butts for a couple hours.
That's true. My butt
and we also like y'all's opinions. So what I first want to do is go into the overarching topic of this. And there's one thing I want to interject real quick. Actually, before we go into it, I forgot that we were going to do this. No Fate, Mr. Sean, he messaged us on Twitter. He added us, or whatever you want to call that. He straight, whatever.
What are you talking about?
He did some stuff. I don't know if you saw, but no fake.
Our DMs.
Yeah, look, he says. Go find him. He didn't hop in our DMs. No,
or he just communicate over.
He just added us in his in a tweet, and what he's talking about is what we mentioned about games development costs being high. So here's Lord, we got Twitter jumping around on me. Let me see if I can find this.
Yeah, because I am actually unsure. No Fate is one of our good boys, as I like to call him.
Long-time listener.
Long-time friend. And
hey, here it is. Hi, it said, Triangle Squared. Hi, guys. Suggested topic for the next podcast. Have games really become too expensive to make? If so, why? And then he has little parts where he wonders. He says, are studios too obsessed with visuals, power? Are gamers too custom to sales expectations? Are loot crates really necessary? What needs to change? And then what he does is he actually includes some information in here about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which at the time was one of the highest known games budget-wise. And going into it, and I couldn't go into it, the game took roughly $40 to $50 million to develop the game. But then by the time that you put in distribution and marketing, the game got up above $200 million. So
I didn't even see this tweet. It was 2 days ago.
Yeah. So anyway, I like that, and I get where he was going. And he says right here in a separate tweet, just to help explain why I'm using Modern Warfare 2 as an example, the game had no microtransactions or loot crates, and when games generally had an average budget of $40,000 to $60,000, this went far beyond that budget, proving great games generate great profits without the need of loot crates. So I like everything he's saying, and this obviously is in response to last week's episode.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that because there is no surefire answer. I think that's going to be the first thing I want to say is that there is no one answer. Gaming has gotten bigger than ever, though, is kind of where it comes into. And with that size comes a lot more variety. But with that variety also becomes a need for mainstream games to push out in a way that still manages to pull people in. Because as an industry, we do have to stay alive. And that only happens with growth. But growth in terms of gamers also represents growth in terms of cost of production,
right?
Needing to make more of a game to be able to afford getting it out to the people who can potentially buy it. All these things that go into it. Now, of course, we don't see what the back end is on a lot of things, but I want to kind of go through a couple of his points. Are studios too obsessed with visuals and power? To an extent, yes, but I don't think that's also just the studios. I also think that is gamers. Definitely console gamers. Well, I say that. Actually, definitely PC gamers, which have bled down into console gamers from the ending of the PS3 360 gen, when all console gamers were getting told us how bad our games looked in comparison to PC. So what has happened is that culture around gaming has become very obsessed with visuals and power. And of course, when a game looks good, feels good, has great animations, the characters, you really feel like you can feel the emotion in them, it does help create more of a bond and more of a connection in ways. Uncharted would not have become what Uncharted was, and would not be as big as it was if it wasn't pushing the technological boundaries. That's a very important thing to say, and that series is big today for a reason. It was big back then for a reason. It did what it needed to hit the goal and the image that they were trying to create. That was their setup. On this particular topic, where do you feel? Because I have one more thing about it, but I want to go into. But where do you stand on developers being obsessed with graphics and visuals?
I think it's more of a demand. I think that
exactly
it's an easy
demand, as in
thing.
what gamers expect.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to market, but I think it's marketed because people want to see it. But at the same time, I would tell you right now that games like Shovel Knight, it may be a crisp game, but the art style is something that's not new, and it's a fantastic game. But I can see that like the 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. They'll certainly say to other ones like, this game looks better. Why are you playing that garbage? And because that's just experience of me growing up,
which is a sentiment that I don't agree with either. But I mean, power.
It's more using it to insult the other person in a sense, more than the game.
Sure.
I think is what it comes from. But to me, I think that there are industry standards, and I think we've hit almost a wall, which is what I'll go into in a little bit in our main topic. But I think that the industry standard now is 1080p, and I don't think it's going to become 4K, at least for another 2 years, is when 4K will be a household resolution. I think that, and that's the earliest. I don't think that 4K is going to, many people are buying it, sure. Don't fall for the cheap 4K TVs that are going to be on sale for Black Friday either. Get a good, reputable brand, Sony or Samsung. Or
Vizio, whatever.
Or Vizio. There's multiple. Yeah, do research. Don't go and get one like called Dim Mark 4K or something. Don't do that because you're not going to have a good quality TV. But I think that when 4K becomes a thing,
don't do it just to be part of the 4K movement.
Right? Yeah, do it because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that we've hit an industry standard where it is there's almost nothing else you can market nowadays other than buzzwords. And those buzzwords just happen to be at this time and place 1080p or 60 or 4K. So it is curious how it's going to change in the next coming years. But another thing to look at using Modern Warfare as an example is that game had no motion capture, I'm pretty sure. That was all done digitally.
I don't think it did either, but that was before. I mean, Uncharted was still pretty groundbreaking in doing motion capture, at least 1-to-1, where it was motion capture and voice capture at the same time.
Yeah, and facial capture. I'm sure that Modern Warfare had motion capture in the sense of it had people doing animations for, the things, but not motion capture with the dot
I really don't
matrices
know.
on faces.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I do know that adds an exceptional amount of money to a budget when you do that, and that's how most games are now. So it's still nuts to me that games cost the same as they did a decade ago, and it's a much better quality of a game.
That's what I say too. Is that a lot of people go, well, are they too? What's interesting is that while the budgets are so much higher, they actually more studios are going out of their way to price their games in a way they feel is more fit to what the product is.
And even some of them, like Hellblade, are
$40. And
yeah.
Hellblade, independent. But let's go after somebody who's a little bit bigger. Okay, like
Crash.
There's no reason that the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy couldn't have been $60. But I think that they went more to their benefit to go, more people are more likely to buy this at $40, and we stand to gain more money by making the game more affordable.
Yeah.
And making it more accessible.
Yeah, and see, like that. And
Ratchet and Clank shared the same thing. Ratchet and Clank was $40. They released
2.
Smart.
Knack 2.
Knack 2 didn't see sales benefits from it because they gave the game away for free on accident. But
yeah.
still,
but it is one of those games.
We're seeing them not afraid to explore different price points, sometimes even cheaper than what games have traditionally been.
Well, see, and my curiosity is that next gen games are going to be $70, $80 maybe. I don't think so. It depends though. Like if you start making actual 4K games with 4K textures and not just the interloping, or even just like the what's it called that the PS4 does.
Oh yeah, checkerboarding.
Those games are going to be cheap. And they're going to be huge in file size.
You don't know. The file size is more than anything. That's a big
deal.
And we're seeing that with Xbox One X right now.
Yeah.
People are talking about that games are taking twice as long to install.
Of course, yeah. And I don't think people realize that textures add a lot to downloads.
They do.
And it's no fault. Like, I saw somebody blaming the Xbox One X for having huge games. It's not Microsoft's fault. It's what people wanted. That's the consequences that come with 4K textures. It's a huge game.
And internet's not at a point to where it can quickly install those or download them. Definitely because a lot of them are patches.
Well, and one game that just came out had the regular game downloaded and then the 4K textures separately.
Exactly.
What game was that? Do you remember?
A lot of the games have been doing that because it's easier for them to do.
Yeah.
A lot of games have been, and then there's other games like Forza. I think it's Forza because Forza 7's already out, right? It was already out.
Yeah, Forza 7 is the one with the microtransactions.
And it may have,
real bad microtransactions.
It may have shipped on it, but there's I know for a fact that there are games that are coming out. Like Gears of War is getting a 4K patch, but it's huge. I mean, like 30 gigs patch.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and that's just to make it look pretty. Like that probably does not have content.
I mean, yeah, studios are obsessed with visuals and powers, but they're only obsessed with it because as a technological person, when you're messing with technology, getting to that next step and them seeing it and knowing what they can do with it from a creating standpoint, it's exciting to them. Of course, they're going to be obsessed with power. Seeing what they can force this little console to squeeze out in terms of power is exciting to them. That's one thing. And B, it's that the consumers want it. The majority of the consumers have hit the point where at least the vocal part of the consumer base is saying this is what we want. We want power. We want power and graphics. Now, of course, here's what I'll say. The Last of Us, fantastic, beautiful game. Nothing about The Last of Us is suddenly worse if the game's not pretty. But the game being pretty,
it adds
helps.
to it. Yeah, it adds that immersion.
It's still a great game.
Yeah.
It's just that gives it that extra edge. It's just a thing that we've come to where. And I do think industry standards set some of it. But on the second side of that, my other argument with that, and I think that you would be, my other argument against the opposite is that there are games coming out that do not worry about visuals or power near as much. Nier Automata being a perfect example. It's a pretty enough game, but they don't worry about every single person looking fantastic. A couple of the really small NPCs that don't matter look like mid-gen PS3 NPCs because it doesn't matter.
Oh, dude, all of Final Fantasy 14 looks like high or like in-gen PS3, pretty PS3.
Yeah.
And the characters look great. They look, at least in animation. But that game's smooth. A blast. Yeah, like it's amazing, but it does.
Now that game had a high budget, but I mean,
it's also an MMO.
Budgets are everywhere right now. Nobody expected Nier to be this success, and people are looking at it and go, how can Nier be considered a success with 2 million sales? And I'm like, they considered it a wild success with 1 million sales, and it's because of expectations versus budget. When they go to budget a game out, they're going, what do we expect this game to sell? If we expect this game to sell this much, then this is the budget we want to allow it to make sure that we at least recoup our budget that we put into it.
Right.
So when Nier surpasses that by far, and Nier was a huge surprise. People have been saying a lot of things like, well, it didn't come to Xbox. We're mad. Like that was a guy on Twitter or something like that. And I was like, I'm sorry and I understand that, but I'm going to be honest with you for a second. Nier and the Drakengard universe are small games. They have never traditionally sold very well. They've only there's a core group of people that have a very,
niche?
It's niche, but what's it like a cult following?
Yeah.
It's like Yoko Taro has a cult following of people who enjoy his games. Nier Automata is the first time they've seen this kind of victory, even though it's a game of no different quality than what he's been doing from a writing standpoint. Now, of course, Platinum being behind it makes the game more again, it's visually a little bit better than typical with him. Though still not just amazing heads above. It's a pretty enough game. It looks fine.
Yeah.
But the combat being there is a little bit better. But this is a big win for them. But that was not expected. They were not going to release this game on Xbox, which is a console that's not traditionally seen very well sales of niche JRPG games.
Right.
And wouldn't have sold in Japan at all. They're trying to minimize risk. That's what happens. Budgets are also based off of what the games are. But Nier Automata was so surprising to people because of what it was and how well it did. expectations between gamers and publishers, not even developers. Publishers expect these big games like Call of Duty to be the sales things, and they really, it's about what they expect it to make money wise off of what the budget in turn was. So yes, Modern Warfare it cost them $200 million overall to get out of the door. So bam, there we go, that's it, and they made $1 billion. That's great. They expect that. Square Enix does not look at Nier Automata and go, okay, well, we're going to give you this much budget, but we're going to make 8 times that budget and be fine.
Right.
And no one knows the budget of Nier Automata. Literally, Nier Automata with 2 million sales could have made 10 times more than what the budget was back, which is great. But there's way too much to go into it. So going back into, are loot crates necessary? Loot crates are going to be a thing that you only see in these big mainstream games like Overwatch, like Star Wars, like Assassin's Creed. You're seeing them as a way to supplement more value in once the game is already into the hands into about as many people as it's going to get into. It's a way to see recurring money come in from a game to where, again, when they can find ways to implement this and make money off of this, all this is again, is risk. A diversion. You're just diverting more risk by making sure that you have some kind of contingency plan to continue making money. So, I mean, would you agree with that? So, I mean, of course, there's a responsibility to it. You don't want to go crazy with it.
My whole thing is that, yeah, here it is right here. EA earned $1.68 billion in microtransactions in 2017. Do you know how much they made total? Let me find it. It's like 2.9
billion.
Yeah, they made half of their entire revenue in microtransactions.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It's important to them, and
and
again, are they necessary? I think they're necessary for studios to want to take risk in other areas, because if they can make money off of these big franchises and continue to bring money in, they have more reasons to give small budgets to more interesting games.
Yeah, 2.87 billion is what they were.
And then the other thing is that it gives them a little more freedom to go, okay, well, if we can find ways to keep making money off of this, we don't have to worry about letting other games be at jeopardy. I think that Bethesda has a little bit of this, even though with microtransactions being not there. It's interesting that Bethesda keeps letting these games. They have Skyrim, which is this sales juggernaut, that they've made enough money to continue to take more creative risk. And I think that regardless of where Bethesda stands on a lot of people, and sometimes the games come out in weird states, and sometimes they're not reviewed very well, sometimes they don't sell very well. Happened with Dishonored 2, it was a great game. Happened with from what I've seen, it's happened with Wolfenstein to an extent, happened with The Evil Within. All these games are objectively fine. They look and run at least okay, it seems, at launch, but they're not selling very well. But at least Bethesda as a publisher, I'm respecting the ability for them to take a creative risk because they have something that's financially helping them out. Sony does the same thing with these smaller games, like Gravity Rush. It was a risk, and they're probably not going to put another one out, but they did the franchise well, and they realized gamers liked it. What needs to change?
Microtransactions, and here's how it works.
So microtransactions need to change?
If you are...
Or loot boxes
It depends. Loot boxes, really. But microtransaction is a whole business model. Here is what I think works really well. Of course, I don't have any experience in marketing or business. But
nor do we know what they're expecting versus what they're getting back in from it. We don't know any of that.
But yeah, if microtransactions / loot boxes, if they're keeping the prices of the games low, if they're keeping them $60, I'm for them to an extent.
So where the microtransaction supplements them being not having to raise the price?
Yeah, because that would really take out some people from being able to play those games, period, for those who are on tight income. Now, they need to change in the sense of that there is no upgrades of any kind. It all needs to follow the Overwatch business model where it's all only cosmetics. And it's like Overwatch where every time you level up in the game or, do this hoo-ha, do this objective, whatever you want to do, you get a loot box.
I will say this, and you can say more about it because I've never been part of it. Destiny. In Destiny 1, you could buy a thing to completely level your subclass.
Right.
Do you feel like that's not good? I didn't feel like that affected anything, really.
No, because here's the thing is that...
Did you know that it's a bad thing?
No, that didn't really hurt anything because...
but that's not cosmetic. That's where I'm saying. So
because Destiny's PvP. And all that did was save that person time in an already cooperative game, and it released so late into the life cycle that the hardcore people who bought the game already were already at that level. So it was a catch-up tool. released to allow people to catch up for people who did not have time to play the game hardcore enough to catch up to people who are currently playing. So when Taken King came out and all these changes were made and then the game was brought back into the limelight, people who just started would have to play for 40, 50 hours to catch all the way back up to level 40 again, you know, or people with tight schedules. So that allowed them to catch up.
So are you okay with that?
It didn't add anything to a competitive sense.
Okay, I mean that's what I'm saying.
Because,
but you're saying all deals or all microtransactions.
I'm thinking mainly for like PvP style games.
Okay.
Because the only thing that could have affected in Destiny is Iron Banner. But here's the catch with Iron Banner: all that stuff's all about your light level plus the guns you use. That wouldn't have affected that at all. I think that things like that, and WoW does that. I want to say Warframe does a version of that of some sort. I could be wrong on that. But Destiny 2 is a good example though, because Destiny 2 does have those little upgrades about where, you know, technically you could buy them. You're not buying them outright. Like you're not specifically purchasing them. You're purchasing a Bright Ingram, which is like a loot box.
You're
that gives you an option
the chance to give them.
Right. Yeah. Like a loot box. I think that in terms like that, Bungie should be really, or Activision should be really transparent on what and how fast those upgrades work. I've seen videos from one person saying that if you equip a grenade recharge rate on all your armor, that your grenade recharge is only 3 seconds faster. I've seen one person say it's only 1 second, like 87 milliseconds faster. So it's like, that's not going to affect gameplay at all. However, it does affect multiplayer to a sense of where if you're fighting against people in that 1 second could mean something, but you'll never know that is what affected it because you don't know what they're wearing. And even if you go into there and stuff, you just wasted more time looking at it than it took to kill you with that 1 second. My thing is that microtransactions need to be into a fair and balanced, a pretty much fair and balanced system that would incorporate themselves across. If they're going to be in whatever games, every game have the same or similar system. Almost a regulation that game companies could do, like Sony maybe put out a regulation of here's what you can and can't do. Because when I watched the Battlefront video of Battlefront 2 and the dude literally couldn't have people lock onto him because of a card he had. That's O2OP and people.
But like, that's suppressing a free market. That won't happen.
Right.
Because and I don't necessarily agree that I think it should. I think idealistically it stands to help, but
it's kind of what we said last episode where it's such every game, every loot box, every system, it's also greatly different upon each game that it's too hard to say a generalizing answer.
Oh, and I think just in general, you can't have them come down and say you can't be. I mean, you can because it's their it's their ecosystem, but it would only stand to hurt Sony. They'd lose money from the game not coming out on their console if Microsoft let them do it. You know what I mean?
I'll say EA doesn't sound like they're making a whole lot of money right now anyways.
I don't know. It's a weird situation, but I mean, are loot crates really necessary? No, but I think that they have a way to, and actually it's funny that you bring up the point of them being able to subsidize the cost of not having to letting budgets continue to rise, but not having to raise the cost of the actual game so that more people can buy it. But then there are people who will automatically just put more money into it, and it only is a way for them to do that. It's a way for them to continue to support a game that they enjoy when they do have the wallet to support it.
See, my dream ecosystem of a game would be something like, I'll use, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a title that I could use that would be appropriate.
No, don't worry.
Halo.
Game 1.
Your Game 1. You know, like let's say if Game 1 came out, and they had a loot box system, but it had Overwatch's loot box system. So here we go. It is only cosmetics. Fine with that. So I'll be completely okay with that multiplayer. No season passes should ever be implemented. Do you remember when Sony said going into this generation that they wouldn't allow season passes? Now they are.
I didn't think that they said they wouldn't allow season passes.
Yeah, they said they would.
I thought it was online passes were going to go away.
I thought I remember reading. I do know they said online passes.
Online passes don't exist.
Because somebody got mad that they said that, and then I remember that they opened up Last of Us on PS3. They had online pass. I was like, well, you say they're not going to do it now, but here it is now. Here it is in this. Because this was before PS4 even happened.
Yeah.
But season passes should never exist. And if they do exist, you better be getting almost a whole entire game worth of content when you win.
Well, it depends on what it is. I mean, because what about Destiny?
What do you mean?
What about Destiny season passes?
I don't agree with that. I don't have the Destiny season pass unless it came with collector's edition. I downloaded it that way. I did because I'm gonna judge each expansion that comes out and is it worthy of $40?
Okay, no, yeah, I get you.
Yeah, but and that's how they should all be done.
Season pass is just a way to save money, and if you think you'll like it and you trust the studio,
here's the problem though: is that once you pay for that season pass and let's say that they're working on the last one. They get so many to buy the season pass at launch. How do we not know that they're not going to release that? Or like Grand Theft Auto did. How do we, like, so many people bought that game, and then the whole multiplayer thing, people started buying all the shark cards, and then how do we really know that Grand Theft Auto didn't just not release a single player DLC because they saw how well multiplayer was doing? It could be one of those deciding factors for a company of that, like.
I see what you mean, because there's no way for them to be transparent. But I think that we've seen games do it in a weird way where we do have a complete roadmap right now, or at least a very good roadmap of what's going on with Shadow of Mordor's DLC. And that game's only been out for a month. That would be
acceptable.
But they've already said November you get one that's a Nemesis system. Basically a DLC, then you get another Nemesis system DLC in December. January doesn't get anything, but February gets a new story DLC, and then May gets a story DLC.
See, now that's I like that. But see, the thing is,
but that's a roadmap, and I think that Destiny gave that with the first game. You remember them saying, "Here's our roadmap," and they even said this Cabal DLC will be out 2 years after the game launches. And then, of course, what do we see as a Cabal DLC? It's actually just Destiny 2.
I don't remember them saying. I don't remember them having a roadmap at all.
Me and Donovan had this conversation not long ago.
I remember them like having an overall.
They were saying there's going to be a big Cabal DLC where the Cabal were the focus, and it was going to release about 2 to 3 years into the game's life cycle. Destiny 1's 10-year cycle. This is when they were still acting like. They were still wording it
10-year cycle.
Like Destiny 1 was going to be a game that just stuck around for 10 years. And then they said this is, and they had a little bit of a roadmap for like the first two to 3 years.
And I don't remember them saying Destiny 1 specifically, though.
They just said Destiny. They just kept saying Destiny
series.
But they never worded it right. I don't know.
I see.
We're moving too far away from the point. But one thing I want to
throw in. The only people that thought that, because everybody knew Bungie from Halo and knew it was going to be a game series.
Well, you don't know because Activision has a little more control over that anyway.
No, not creative control.
But they control over whether or not it becomes a sequel or not. Ultimately, I guarantee you that Activision is the one that goes, we want it to be a brand new game. I don't know
about that. But yeah, that would be my thing, is like cosmetic only. If you have a season pass, be transparent about what it is and have it worth it. If season pass, and why we were season passes, one's $50 or $40, right? Remember seeing $29 for some, $24 for some, $40. Season pass for World War II, $50. $10 cheaper than a full game.
That's crazy.
Am I going to get almost a full game, Sledgehammer? Because if I don't, then what's the point of me paying $50?
Well, it depends. Some people buy the $60 game just to play multiplayer.
That's what I'm saying. Is that am I going to get $50 worth of content, or am I going to get 2 map packs here or 2 map packs there?
I don't know.
A loot box, 10 loot boxes for free here. Like, no. I want to be transparent about what I'm getting.
Okay. The last thing I want to mention, because you've loosely mentioned the game, but we're talking about are games really that expensive to make? I just want to throw this game out there, and it is a very. It's like the worst of the worst examples because it's going to the exact height. But 2013, Grand Theft Auto 5, its development cost.
It's like
$137 million.
Yeah.
The game used $128 million in marketing for a total cost of $265 million.
Right. They made that back in shark cards alone.
And
it's the best-selling game of all time.
But let's talk about this. Yeah, and of course it swung in their favor by far. But this is a game you're talking about. That was in 2013. The development budget was that high of a game that had been in development for probably 5 years. Games are expensive to make now. Another high example, just because I thought it was interesting to kind of do this. Another high example, Star Wars The Old Republic from BioWare cost $200 million to develop. $200 million. Max Payne 3, another Rockstar game, which they have high budgets typically.
The developments, does that include licensing cost?
If there is licensing, I would imagine it probably
I guarantee
does.
you that's a Republic had a lot to pay in royalties with Star Wars.
Maybe.
That's a lot of money for that game.
Well, but I don't know if they pay licensing costs since they're the ones that have a contract with.
Oh, well, they were LucasArts, weren't they? Lucasfilms game studio.
LucasArts published it. So they were making some of the money back.
Yeah.
They published it with EA. But Rockstar did Max Payne 3 for $105 million. Again, that's a game from 2012. All I'm saying is that games are more expensive now than they've ever been. I would like to see what like Uncharted 4's budget was. I'm sure it was really high. These games do have to find a way to make money back. But I want to go off to the actual main topic, I guess, even though that's actually been a pretty long one. And Saul, we have some people on Twitter that said some stuff. So I want to hop on that real quick because I know you've already closed yours.
Is it questions?
No, regarding the actual main topic.
Oh, yeah.
We got way off. Oh, look, hold on. Shuriko asked us, do you guys take a drink snack when you sit down to a game session? For me, I have a bottle of Dr. Pepper Pepsi or a coffee when I know I'm going to be left alone for a few hours. Shiriko, I normally don't do anything. I don't normally eat when I'm playing games or anything, but if I do randomly have a drink, it just depends on what's going on. I mostly drink water at home these days, but Mountain Dew Game Fuel's back out, so I've been drinking those while I've been gaming.
Is it really?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
No, I brought... Do you not see the can right there?
You just pointed to something and I don't see it. No, I do. Okay, boy, I'm telling you right now, we got to go to Walmart after this. I got to buy some. I got to get a keyboard for Final Fantasy for chat. But for me, I have an L-shaped desk. I got my PS4 TV on one side. I got my monitor, my computer on the other.
Same setup.
I will, I'll say we both have very similar setups. I guess like when I'm in the game room, in the man cave, I do eat in there. But for me, typically, I will go grab like a pouch of tuna or some chips, or, if I gotta go out to like McDonald's or something, grab dinner, I'll come in, but not while I'm playing a game, really. I mean, every now and then, like when I'm playing Destiny or something, you'll hear me snacking on chips or you'll hear me snacking on something. But if so, it's just chips. However, though, after that answer, we did get some more.
We got way more questions.
Yeah, 2B or 9S.
Oh, 2B or A2, and then someone said you forgot 9S.
A2, yeah.
I'll throw 9S in there. But if we're just talking specifically about the females, and I'm going to do that out there, 2B or A2 is such a hard thing to answer. But
2B for the butt aesthetics.
I think I'm going to have to go 2B because I like her coldness. But then her actual, like, the more you play the game, you're like, she's not cold. She's just, she's distant. And the whole game's funny because it's talking about, like, the idea of the androids aren't supposed to have emotions, but they clearly do. It's really funny. So between those two, 2B, I have to. A2, don't get me wrong, also my girl, and really cool at the end of the game. And I'm not going to get into that because that's ending.
Still haven't done it
You're
yet.
going into ending 3
point. I'm going to go off 2B.
And ending 4. I'm not going to go into all that. But yeah, 2B for me. And as far as 9S is concerned, if we're throwing him into the mix, 9S is awesome. And 9X was a surprising twist as they continued to include him more in the game throughout the later endings.
I saw a picture of 9S Photoshop behind a Geek Squad counter. It was super funny.
I liked 9S a lot, and I think that they did a lot of weird character development with 9S in ways that you felt for him, but at the same time, it was like it's really taking on the human idea, and like he was interesting. I might say that my favorite character in that whole game was 9S by the end of it, and that's also if you haven't played the game, that's all the way through to the ending E, which is the final ending. So yes, 9S is awesome, and AO Lost Light. Thank you for including him back into the mix.
Steve Bitto said, "What is your other hobby than gaming? Your favorite one? Sleep. And if I'm not doing sleep, probably writing. If I'm not like working on like a game or anything like that, I'm writing, or I'm thinking of a story to expand upon that I'm writing in my head, or it's me actually like I have like these little journals that I write in daily, just to keep up with like fighting writer's block because that's something I deal with. That's it though."
So we've mentioned this a little bit before, but my other ones, it's kind of a lot. I mean, I would say probably my main one is writing and listening to music, doing both. But I also have a very vested interest in just technology in general. I really like looking and keeping up with what phone technology is doing and how phones are moving forward from a technological nature. And I like seeing what Google was talking about with technologically speaking, phones are almost about to hit kind of a brick wall where they have a lot less ways to jump forward, but they have way more ways
consoles.
They have way more things from a software point of view.
Features.
To do it. I like that a lot.
Let me be able to squeeze my phone to bring out Google Assistant is always kind of cool.
Yeah, see, but good software ways. Yeah, and I do that occasionally. And AO Lost Light, who threw 9S back into that last question from 2B or A2, he or she, I don't really know, I apologize. What game would you pick up only on discount to try or own? Example, I'm not sure I'd pay full price for Duke Nukem, but many for 99 cents. But maybe, is what I think it meant, for 99 cents, I'd give it a go. There are games like that. It's actually funny. We're talking about that. One of the games I'm only going to pick up on discount will be Star Wars Battlefront 2 because I do want to experience the campaign, but I don't think I'll pay any more than $20 for that.
I'm not
but I will buy it new. That's important. If I'm going to wait that long, I do feel like I deserve to give the development. I will buy it new. I know me and you are different on that, but
I don't care about that at all. Unless it's a developer I really like.
The only thing I didn't do is like the Division. I didn't know where I stood in the Division, but I was actually thinking about just buying it digitally. But it's still $50. It's $50. Okay, it's still $50 when I could go to GameStop and get it used for $8. So for the most part, I try and support the developers that I like, and I try and support developers in general. So that's where I kind of stand on that one.
Yeah, I don't like EA that much, so I'm not going to pay them any money. I will buy it used at GameStop for $20.
But going back to the main topic because we.
Well, let me answer the question.
Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
Probably Ukulele. If that game was like $5 or less, I may pick it up.
Oh, that's actually a good one. I agree with that.
Yeah. Final Fantasy was actually one of mine. I always told myself if I saw Final Fantasy 15 drop below 30, I'd buy it again, and it did, and I did. But that, something weird with Sony sales is we keep seeing the same games almost at the same prices every time they have a sale. Nothing new. Like Horizon's always $25 or $30, and then Final Fantasy's always $25 or $35, and then we always got Battlefront discounts or Battlefield discounts. We have all kinds of things, but yeah, probably Ukulele. And
I feel for that one. I actually think that that's a good point. Ukulele is a game that I just could not give my full attention and money when it came out because from what I've seen, it's very light in platforming. It's not really all that hard. It's not what I like about platforming games. But real quick, let's go into this main topic, and this is how do you guys feel about mid-gen console upgrades? And this stems from the fact that Xbox One X, at least in Europe, and I didn't look specifically to see if in the US, but it did outsell the PS4 Pro at launch in comparison in Europe, which is interesting because, of course, while Microsoft has a big foothold in Europe, PlayStation has still been winning this gen in Europe. So interesting switch. I would be interested to see what the North American numbers were for it as well in comparison to PS4 Pro, and if it's higher or lower or maybe even closer to equal, but I don't know about that. But he said, is that something you want to see become a permanent trend? If so, what do you want to see out of them? Let us know. That was Mr. Saul that posted that. Thank you. I didn't get around to it. We had a surprising amount of answers. So Mr. Sean No Fate, his first thing, before we hop into what our thoughts are on them, he said, short answer, no. We are console gamers. Why have we become so obsessed with power, visuals, and frame rates? Which does tie back to his thoughts and his question to us. Why has this become more important than low-cost, simple plug-and-play gaming with local multiplayer support? Everything consoles were designed for, and PCs aren't. Due to the way mid-gen console has been handled, I wonder how this would affect the next console launch. Will some gamers maybe hold back from buying a PS5, or will Sony release a PS5 Pro at the same time? Also, what about another TV? I feel we've had this conversation before. Sean, we have had this conversation before in some ways. Just to touch on that, I don't think that we'll see Sony do the same thing with releasing a Pro at the same time, because the idea of a Pro coming way later is that costs come down. If Xbox would have released this Xbox One X alongside the original Xbox One, production cost would have been way too high. The console, if it matched the power it has today, which apparently from something that No World or whatever, World's End mentioned, is that, and I really meant to look into that and I totally did not get around to it, is that they locked in those specs somewhere around 2012 for the Xbox One X, maybe a little bit later. I think it was 2012 is what he said, and I'd like to look at that on a article because it sounds interesting. But they had to wait to release this console, and I do know to an extent they do that because they wanted production cost to match a point where they can hit a price point that's reasonable. There's no way that even people, when you're a console gamer, there's no way the Xbox One X would have been able to survive or do well or did what it did just now if it would have been any higher than $500. I said that from original. I didn't think he still thought it was kind of a high price, but numbers have shown that I was wrong, that it was still too high. That's good. I don't think that if that system was $700, you would have seen people buy it. It's too much. We saw the same thing happen with PlayStation 3 when they had a bunch of SKUs and the SKUs went all the way up to like $600 for one. It was too much.
Yeah, you're gonna get the fans, like hardcore people, who are gonna buy that, not the typical homeowner, not the typical person buying it for their kid.
So I mean, I know that we've had that conversation a couple times, but I still don't think we see a PS5 Pro release at the same time if we ever see them do it again. At least Sony has completely said that they are still interested in the idea of a traditional console generation. And
the casual person will always buy the cheaper one if they don't.
That's true, and that's the other thing about releasing.
They're going to be
super powerful at once. It's funny. Like they won't get part of what you're talking about, but I'm not going to get into it till we read a couple more of these. Is about Slims and where they stand in this cycle.
Oh yeah, because I should have mentioned it when I wrote that tweet out, but I really meant, are we going to see more powerful mid-gen consoles instead of Slims?
I knew what you meant.
Because in reality, what does a Slim do if it's a console? Like it doesn't. You don't unless you just move it a lot. It doesn't do nothing. It looks better. Like the second iteration of the PS3 looked light years better than both of the other ones.
Greg Middleton said, I've still got my launch PS4 and I'm happy with it. I'll upgrade when it dies. I know that's going to be a lot of people's sentiments. I completely understand that. And I only went up because I had the money and I was like, if I'm going to go up, I'm going to buy the TV too. And if I can't buy the TV, there's no point in getting it. So that's why I did it. And I don't regret it. Toriko said it makes the base console cheaper, which is very important.
A good point.
Without segregating games to particular consoles. Unsure if it should be permanent or not, but he is saying that it has a positive swing to it.
Yeah, and it is.
And I agree. It does have a positive swing, though I'm sure that there's somewhat negative connotations beside it because it does make some of the base feel left out and a little ostracized.
And it kind of complicates things when it comes to reviews.
But it doesn't completely alienate those gamers by not letting them get the games, and that's important.
Yeah, it still makes everything accessible to everybody.
Sir Herps, he says, if it keeps the current gen around longer, I'm all for it, which is interesting because a lot of people complain about last gen being too long.
I'm one of those people. I think that generation should be 6 years. I think is the sweet spot.
I'd be interested to see that one, Sir Herps. I would be weird about... I don't know if I'd like it to be longer or not. It depends on how much power they're able to still squeeze out.
And that's the issue.
Well, stagnating. That's what
wall.
it is. You don't want them to stagnate. You know, to an extent, some games can be interesting enough that they're so interesting that they just don't worry about power and stagnation doesn't hit. But some games, it is about a technological push. So Mr. No Fate, I know, has his own thoughts on that. But Sean Santarude, congratulations on fatherhood, buddy. I know I already told you, but I'm excited for you. I'm a dad. I like it. It's fun.
Congratulations.
He says, I've got a Pro, but don't want mid-gen upgrades to become permanent unless there's a massive jump in TV tech, which I don't think there will be. Is what he said.
Exactly.
It was all because of 4K and HDR becoming more popular and mainstream, which is true. That is a big part of why we saw the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. It was a way to hit that demand and see what they could do with that and within the market. Seth, Mr. Saul's brother, said, maybe not become a permanent trend, but I believe that it's a good midway point for up-and-coming gamers. And I'm going to read a couple more after this because there was a lot of responses. It says, jump in. Gamers will be able to jump in once each system gets their feet on the ground. I'd like to definitely see improvements made to each system since they are now well established. He's excited. So I could agree with that. Mr. Gideon, long time listener who always has pretty interesting stuff to say, he went on a little tirade apparently about Avita that kind of ties into this. He says he thinks it's applicable here. In his original tweet, he said, as much as I would love a Vita successor, I don't think there's a market for a handheld with a dedicated software library. Times have changed and people will expect full console games on their handhelds from here on out, which is obviously in reference to the Switch. If Sony makes another handheld, it can't just be a better Vita. And then he mentioned that he missed a lot of words that I just filled in for him.
Yeah. What did he say?
Geez, miss words much good. There's a lot of points in that. Switch has definitely changed the way that a console would be given. I think that they could do a Vita successor that found ways to bridge the gap, but I don't know how they... Again, I've talked about it loosely on previous episodes. It'd be a hard thing to do. I'm going to read one more of these.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mr. Liam says, and he's playing Divinity now, which is cool because he was playing Far Cry Primal. I'm going to keep up with that boy. It sort of has been a thing for quite a while. Several systems had slim versions with better hardware out not long after base systems were released. And let's not start on Nintendo with how many models there are for DS, 3DS. I actually want to take a time to talk about this one because...
I've had every iteration of the DS.
Oh, God.
Every one except...
The 2DS one?
The DSi XL.
Oh, the DS.
The DSi XL.
Yeah, I got you.
The DSi was
I thought
my
you were talking
favorite.
about 3DS. Sorry.
No, I'm talking about all of them.
Oh, God.
The only one I don't have is 2DS XL. You know what? You know I'm getting next week.
2DS XL.
Or the week after. Sometime soon.
But anyway, I want to take a little bit of time to specifically put on this one. I saw it whenever he sent it in. He's right to an extent. We see the companies come out with a refreshed console design and a refreshed innards. But that's not in the same scope of what the Xbox One X and what the PS4 Pro are doing. The PS4 Pro and One X are doing things to give developers more specs to work with, better specs to work with. They're actually upgrading it to make games be able to utilize that power. A Slim just takes the innards and makes them more efficient. Sometimes adds like a better modem for online, stuff like that, which PS4 works out
Pro
better. They do small things like that. The PS4 Slim did that as well. It offered 5 gigahertz. Which was not supported.
The Slim?
Yeah, which was not supported on the original PlayStation 4.
Now,
so they find ways to upgrade them, yes, but for the most part, the point of a Slim is to drive costs down. Because normally they'll change the design to where the cost of materials will be even less. They'll find a way to use less plastic. Being able to make everything smaller means less plastic is needed, which saves them on material costs. We see them drive down costs that way, and that's also somewhat of what you see with Nintendo 3DSs and 2DSs. 2DS was all like, hey, how do we make a 3DS? And people who don't care about the 3D factor, how do we make it cheap enough in a form factor for them that makes sense?
The most
comfy 2D
handheld.
That's for debate, but that one was interesting and I liked it. But going into where we kind of stand on it, of course.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
No generation before this one had mid-gen consoles that had actual better hardware, right?
No, never.
Okay. A user put that in there and it threw me off because I didn't think. I know the Xbox 360 Elite had a bigger hard drive and it was black.
Yeah, that was Liam. That's what I just kind of read.
Yeah.
He was talking about they do put new components in them, but they're components to do small things like give you more hard drive space or give you a better modem.
I didn't think that
but they did not give more specs for people to work with.
Okay, because I don't remember why, but I remember that the sliding tray PS3 had a better CPU or had higher clock speeds.
I don't think so.
Okay, I couldn't
Now
remember.
the PSP did do that. If we want to talk about PSP, the PSP's later ones, but they weren't usable by games.
Was it the Slim?
The Slim and the Super Slim got better processors for multitasking.
Super Slim.
Yeah. You don't remember
What is that?
There was a Super Slim Vita that had the really thin ring around the back because there was the original Vita. The Super Slim PSP. Did I say Vita this whole time?
No, you've been saying PSP.
Okay, yeah, PSP.
I may have said Vita that threw you off.
Yeah, anyway, PSP was there like that, and the way it was set up is that there was a fat PSP, then the PSP 2000 and the PSP 3000. The 3000 looked a lot like the 2000, but had a really slim silver ring around the PSP symbol. And that's how you knew which one it was. And they changed the button layout in the bottom to where the home button didn't say Sony anymore. It was a PlayStation logo and stuff like that.
So the PSP that I had that came with the Daxter, that was PSP 2000.
Yes, it was.
Okay,
and
that's what I
it
thought.
had a better processor. If I'm not mistaken, I know for at least the 3000 had a better processor, but I'm pretty sure it was 2 and 3000, and it was to give the console more media functionality, but it did not affect the way games used it.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. But anyways, my whole entire wanting for this is or my thoughts are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you brought the topic forward, so you go ahead and bring it in. Let's see what you were talking about.
I prefer a somewhat smaller console generation. 6 or 7 years, I think, is a sweet spot. Never a decade, nothing like that. Not even 9 years.
Well, it wasn't even 9 years for the 360. It was 8.
Hey, that's still like
seven for PS3. Just important to throw out there.
Just because the PS3 launched a year later. But I think that 6 to 7 is a sweet spot. I think that until you hit a power wall, I think they're fine because I have a Pro now. I do notice changes in the games I play that people are. We were playing with somebody who somehow frame drops in Destiny 2. I was like, I didn't even know those were existent because I've never had them. But they had an original PS4.
I remember that.
We had a Pro. So it's one of those things of like where I will buy them because I'm a super fan, and I didn't buy PS4 at launch. I don't remember why
you never bought a PS4 new. The Pro was actually your first time buying a new PlayStation.
Yeah, because I bought my PS4 from you. I just can't remember why I didn't buy one at launch. Because I didn't have an Xbox One at launch, and it might be because I was That's what it was. I was. That's when I first moved out. And
you still had a ton. You had a PS3, and you were still trying to play a ton of PS3 games you missed out on.
That too, yeah. And I was too worried about that. But yeah, that was when I first moved out, trying to get rent, groceries, utilities, stuff like that figured out on mine and my brother's end because being an adult, never had to live on my own before. But because that was back in like 2013 or 12. But. Yeah, I think that unless some new technology comes forth and it can be applied properly, no 8K, because that is not going to happen anytime soon.
Diminishing returns catch 8K. There's no point in
something like performance upgrades, because frame rates could always get better to a certain point. Like 200 frames per second. I don't notice that. I've played computer games like League and Dota and other games like Torchlight.
200 frames per second feels no better than 120.
What's the
or even 60?
Well,
maybe, but.
What's the other Torchlight style game? The Diablo style game for computers free.
Something
Path of Exile. Yeah,
Hey.
I used to play Path of Exile at 140 or not 144, 120, and I didn't see it. Like I knew that it looked good, but past 120, I was like, this isn't like I don't see any difference. So like I think that we need to push for 60, then maybe higher than that or something else that they incorporate like VR.
So you're saying with next gen, right? Specifically with,
so
with
like,
a PS5, and if there will be anything
so like
from
a PS5 0.5 or something. Like if I'm thinking of,
so you're saying you only think that they should do a mid-gen
if a worthy is if
like I did this year. So because 4K became a thing,
it worked out good because it is interloping and super sampling It does look good, not 4K.
And every game, my problem with it, the only reserve I have with it, which I guess it shouldn't be a controlled thing, but I wish there was a little bit more of a standardized use of it because you don't know what you're going to get. Not all developers use the 1080p Super sampling,
that's the
and
other
I feel
problem.
like they should.
Well, that's the other problem is that it's not something that all developers, like especially indie developers, they don't have accessibility to these tools.
Well, surprisingly, Hellblade Super Small Team had
that
had 4K.
See, what I'm thinking.
Well, you know what I mean. It had the. I'm pretty sure it was checkerboarding, but anyway, it had a 4K solution.
Yeah,
and then it had a 60 frames per second solution that didn't worry as much about resolution.
That's something though I want to see become the norm. I want to see games like Neo did it perfectly. Because of how like Neo had
performance mode, and then visual mode, which is like more
cinematic mode or story mode or something.
About making it look good.
I think every game that is that style should include that. Any third-person action game of any sort should include that. It solves all the problems of people having of 60 better than 30 because you get both options. For people like me who prefer those games in 60, I get it. For
and people don't care.
Yeah, you get 30 if you want it or 60 if you want it. Like you have choices. But I think that they're good for what they are. They're not going to become permanent though, and I could say why, and that's because that me and Michael were talking about this the last time he came down. There's only a certain amount of advances they can make in video games until we hit a wall. Other technology is going to flourish because of how at the alarming rate that technology is advancing.
Well, I mean, you say that, but we've already talked about the fact that cell phones are hitting walls. To an extent.
Well, yeah.
With current, you know where phones need to go better? The only thing batteries.
Well, that too.
Batteries are where phone technology has been stumped.
And we're going backwards in terms of taking out headphone jacks. I understand why. Make it thinner. I don't want.
No. It's because USB-C is.
It does not have better audio quality though. That's the problem. Audiophiles are against phones like these because it doesn't have better audio quality.
Not for MP3, but they have. It is lossless. USB-C is lossless. In terms of getting it from your case. So MP3 is already a lost full file thing. And this is a super stupid thing, sorry. Yeah. But MP3 is already compressed as hell. It's not a lossless format. But then when you take that MP3 and you send it down this wire has a lossless bit to it. So by the time it hits your earphones, it's losing even more. By the time it gets there. USB-C though, when you're handling USB-C, the port doesn't lose anything. It's a lossless data because it's digital instead of being analog.
But the complaints that people are having is that all the stuff they've bought, all the boards, all the switches they've bought for all their audio can't be used. All their amps can't be used because there isn't good adapters out yet that work well.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in terms of why they did it, there's more than just the fact that it makes the phone slimmer.
But
there's a reason. It's a technological advancement in their opinion.
That's one of those things I was getting at is that anytime you take away a choice is going back a step because there's always if you added a headphone jack, what wrong does it do other than make the phone a little bit thicker? Nothing. It doesn't do nothing wrong.
But okay, let's just throw it on there. Do you really think that to an extent that they should have just kept making all DVD players still have a VHS on them? Was it really necessary?
No, because that's actually a lost media at that point. Nobody was using.
Oh, well, hold on. But I'm saying that but forever. If there's no reason to take it away ever, then why?
But see, 10 years from now, I could justify that. But now in this day and age, when headphone jacks are still being used as auxiliary cables, all that stuff. When VHSs went away, it was in a market in which DVDs were already selling so well because DVD players were priceable. Not like VHS players that were $2,000 when they first came out. VHS players were around $150. Were
really expensive whenever the Betamax.
Yeah. But anyways, anytime you take a step or an option out that has an effect on somebody is a step away. Yeah, and that's one of those things is that if you add these options and you get to a point of where you can add them and incorporate them properly and they work well, like 60 frames, performance, and you add them.
Performance is dictated by vision of the game, though. It depends on what you want the game to be. If you want the game to be this beautiful masterpiece.
Yeah, which is why options works the best of any kind. And see, one thing I want to see
what I was saying was in the current thing where options aren't always given is normally because there's a vision. They're like, we want the game to be remembered for being this beautiful experience. And then some people are like, well, we want it to be remembered for being a smooth, fun experience. Yeah. And that's where the 60 frames, 30 frames, like we want it to be remembered.
Mode. I hope PS5 has a boost mode. That's like...
Now, boost mode is an interesting thing because boost mode is locked to whatever frame rate the game was given to begin with.
Right.
I get that. All it's doing is helping it to maintain the
performance of the
frame
game.
Rate that was already given better than what the original one could. So if you had a game that skipped out on frames occasionally on the base PS4 and you go to the PS4 Pro and it has this extra processor room or this extra graphical room to try and help that, all it's doing is alleviating that to make sure it hits its target.
Correct, yeah. And
now, if they can find a way to make targets not matter, but then again, that adds so much.
The target should
be. It
be.
does come back into an extent to where I agree with one thing in particular, and I think it's a half and half. I agree to an extent. No Fate. He says, why has it become more important than low-cost, simple plug-and-play gaming? Now, the thing is, some people have argued about what the Xbox One X is, what the PS4 Pro is. There's a million things you could say about it. But in the too long didn't read of it, doesn't matter that the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X are still way more simple and way more plug-and-play. And really, they still are plug-and-play than PC. PC is just not plug and play. There's drivers you've got to worry about. There's all these things. Now, updates are a different thing. You don't normally have to update the game to be able to play it, but there's a reason why you want to do it, because normally it helps out. But plug and play is still very true with the PlayStation. You plug it in, you go buy it, you don't have to know much. You get home,
especially if you're all
in.
digital. Like me, I just swap games now. I don't even have to get up and get a disc because I'm too lazy.
But plug and play is still the nature of consoles, and I don't think they're moving away. Now, what you get to, this is where console would become too much. When you give too many options, like so in the game, let's talk about from a game development standpoint.
Right.
Within the game, these options you're talking about, if they're just options, it's still a step away from plug and play, because plug and play is one. Hold on. Plug and play is, by its most basic nature, is that you don't do anything. You plug it in, you put the game dictates how it's supposed to run, and you play it.
Right.
But I'm not against you, because the thing is, you don't ever have to go into the options. Whereas on computers, for the most part, you have to at least scan it for it to be like, what do you have? What can you run? And then if you don't want to touch it again, you don't have to. Options being there helps. Yes, it gives more people more options. But for people who are confused by those options, all it does is add more daunting things for them. Now, again, if it's done like most games let you do it, like Hellblade, you didn't have to go into the menus at all. You download the game, you start the game, you play it. Unless you decide that you want the game to run better, look better, whatever, unless you decide to go, what can I do visually in this game? Then you go into that.
That's what I'm talking about, though.
And if games can continue that, it's fine, but
it's a flip of a switch.
And this isn't going against you. It's actually going against what I was about to say, which is if games could find a way through game development to remove the need for a lock, which is already stupid because you want a lock for consistency's sake. You don't want the game to constantly be going 45, 30,
down to 30.
Yeah, so a lock is important in a lot of
ways. It's
ways.
much more noticeable than 30 dropping to 25.
But if what I'm saying is, if they could find a way for a game to go, here's it's built for 30 frames per second, which this is actually based off the way frames are designed, so it doesn't matter. But the more you start to go into this, you start to go into the fact of too many sliders. And I'm even going to say that options are fine, but I want them to be defined options that I can't mess with anymore. I want it to just be like, you either want 60 frames per second or you don't. I don't want a slider. I don't want a slider that says 70 frames per second or mid detail. I just want the game to be like, it's the only options you have is graphical fidelity, high, low, medium. So actually a great example of that would be Final Fantasy 15. You just went in and said, what graphical fidelity you want? And it was just like low. And if you get low, you got more performance.
That was still too complicated, though. That was
but
like,
it's just low, medium, or
no. But if you read the descriptions, one was like it increased frame rate, then one said increased performance. What's the difference in that game?
Performance is a weird word to use because some people look at performance as graphical performance. But yeah, regardless.
Because then one was graphical better. Like I looked at that, I had to Google. I'm like which one? Like I ended up picking.
Well, because do you think
visuals? Because actually in that game, with the 60 frames on was actually really ugly.
But you're really pushing this. That's what I'm saying. You're pushing how simple it is for a lot of people. And when people have to Google stuff to be able to figure out what they're supposed to do in the game, it causes issues. So I don't know.
When you first booted up your PS4, you had to do the HDCP handshake to get it to work with your TV. I
didn't have to.
I watched you. I was here.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
You told me to do it because you were saying...
Well, we couldn't figure it out. How did we have to Google it? Because it wouldn't display in 4K. It only displayed in 2K.
No, it still went to 4K, I thought.
No, we had to Google that.
But it was an update for PS4. Options. It still didn't do anything for me. Because remember, that doesn't exist now.
We had to go to the menu on the Android, on your TV using the Android service to get it to work.
I don't remember doing that. I remember that we went into it to try, but it didn't change anything until the PS4 Pro updated.
No, we did something. I couldn't remember what we did, but I do remember we deep dived into your. I remember deep diving into your phone menu. Yeah, But I mean, like what I'm saying is that.
It's complicated.
How many games have come out on launch and been on a console and been not as good? Like, you know.
What do you mean not as good?
Like they didn't perform that well. Like I can't.
Oh yeah, so you're saying like you can't think of very many games.
That's what I'm saying is if boost mode came out on PlayStation 5, or if there was an option to tick where it would overall increase the performance of played games.
Sure.
Maybe you had two options: cinema mode or cinema mode 1080p 60 or 30. Then you had, you know, performance
within the game, correct?
Yeah, it'd be like boost mode. It's overall. You just go in there and click what you want.
Oh, you're talking about from the system level.
That's what I've been talking about. I was never talking about from inside the game.
You can't do that on system level. That's what I'm saying because the game
boost mode.
But boost mode doesn't work that way.
That's what I'm saying though. Is that boost mode does work that way.
But no.
Boost mode allows the game to run at the 60 design frames, and it makes it stable instead of dropping constantly.
Yeah, but I thought so that's where our miscommunication is coming in. It sounds like you're telling that you want the system to be able to say all games, regardless. If you want them all to run at 1080p 60, then you just force it to do that.
No, I'm talking about just a boost, like a mode in general that you can pick that would default the games to what you'd want if you wanted it.
But that couldn't work because games are designed. Boost mode does not do that. Boost mode just says whatever the game's already set for, all we're doing is helping it hit that. The boost mode that you're talking about is a boost mode that forces the game to do something it wasn't designed to do, and it can't because the game wasn't designed to do that. There's not a boost mode that can exist that can make a game run at 60 frames per second or only at 30. If the game's designed in 60 frames per second and it doesn't give you an option, it can't go and cut that to 30.
But what game nowadays are designed at 30 frames per second? That can't go to 60.
Oh, there are Destiny 2.
60 on PC.
Yeah, on PC, but
that's what I'm saying though. That's the same.
But it doesn't.
Game.
Yeah, but again, it's the same game, but it's not designed that way on PlayStation. That's what I mean. So it's not designed that way on the console.
So that would never be an option that a PlayStation 5 could offer, or Xbox One X2 or whatever could offer.
It could offer it
because that's what I'm saying. But I'd like a check mark.
It wouldn't be from the system. It would be from a development standpoint. So
it'd be from an inside of a game.
The game would have to allow.
I don't have to check that every time I log into a different game.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I thought that I thought it would be possible, similar to like a PC game, where you just go in, you click, 60 frames or whatever, and then you're done for good. But I thought you could do that on a system level on a PS4 with the way they make the architecture and the way boost mode works.
No, you can't do that on PS4. You can't do that on PS4. You can't even do that on PC. You can't even tell your PC to play all games at 60 frames per second.
But then again, your PC's not a dedicated gaming machine.
Yeah, I mean,
I figure they would be able to.
Let's say this: Steam is a dedicated gaming platform. You can't even tell Steam to run all Steam games that you open through it at 60 frames per second. Because
I guess you're right. I never thought about
because
that.
The problem with that is that still the game determines whether or not it can run on 60 frames per second based off of what you have in your computer.
Yeah, the hardware.
Now consoles do have the benefit of having the same things across all. So if a PS5 Pro came out, it would have all PS5 Pros have the same console guts.
Yeah,
but you're still going to run into the issue of unless the developers are going in and developing these games to be able to hit the marks that you're trying to set it in from a system level, it won't work.
Okay, well think about
and actually because he has a lot of game. Because he has, from what I can see, a lot of game development insight. World's End, if you listen to all this part, if I'm saying anything wrong, please tell me.
Same thing for me.
But from and I have a base understanding. It's not something I've claimed to be super, but I mean, from what I understand the way PCs work, you can't tell a PC to even do that. You shouldn't be able to tell a console to do that unless all developers agree.
Well, you already can.
Unless all developers agree to hit that benchmark.
Well, I mean, that's what the thing is that all developers don't agree to hit 30 or 60. So then, when the 30 games, they just don't drop. They just run to the preferred. That's what I'm saying.
But you're saying boost mode will let you say all games run at 60 frames per second.
No. That's what I'm saying. No. I'm saying an option that would be cinematic or an option that would be action. And it'd be just like in Neo, where if it runs at 60, it runs at 60, but keeps it at a locked resolution. Then your cinematic would be locked at whatever the new resolution would be, because it's not going to be 1440. So it must be checkerboard 4K. Instead of auto docking to 1080 or something, you could actually go in and set your profile up to have these set options. That's what I'm saying. That would change.
But they would only work if the game supports it.
That's how boost mode is.
No, boost mode's not. Boost mode is supported on a system level.
I guess I'm misinterpreting what I'm thinking.
What you're saying, just give it one more shot. I want to hear.
Okay.
I want to hear.
So there is an option within the PS5 settings.
Yes.
That if I don't want to play a game at 30 frames, I can have it play at 60 if it's supported. Think of Neo, that system that you go in and check mark. Can that not be possible to have it work on a system level and have an option profile for you.
Unless the game's, I know where we're at now.
Okay.
Again, no, not unless the game's specifically program it in there to where they go and try and read the system level, and then the game still has to have the option because
got it. So you couldn't go in like a PC game and adjust the profile or whatever.
Yeah,
you could just do an overarching profile on
it would,
console architecture.
From my understanding, it wouldn't work that way. You just couldn't because the game still has to be designed to look at the system level to do that. And if the game is not designed to do that, then it can't look at that system level. Because the difference between boost mode that we have specifically right now as an analog to the boost mode that you'd be hoping for is that boost mode doesn't go in and tell the game to do anything. All it's doing is the game is using the console's guts, and because all it does is let the game access a little bit more that it has to try and hit whatever frame rate the game's already programmed for. So if the game does not give the option for the game to run at 60 frames per second, already, that's not going to happen. It would be way easier and way smarter for them to just leave it every game that they want to design options, and you choose the option per game.
Okay, well then I'll say this then. I hope that the PS5 has something like boost mode that's just on and in the system.
That you don't even have to go and turn it on?
Yeah, because that way it keeps things stable at what the developer wants.
I say I'm okay with that. The only reason that boost mode can be turned off now, or it has to be turned on,
some issues.
Some games do not run with it. I haven't seen it happen. Some games actually run worse with it because they don't know. It doesn't know how to use that extra power.
Because see, I figured if a game didn't support boost mode or was supported at 30 frames,
it would just ignore it.
Yeah.
But no, there's some games that it actually works negative on because it doesn't know.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It gets confused on the extra power. Something like that. But anyway, it doesn't work with the change in the processors. From my understanding, they're all definitely, and even World's End said it last episode, they all use Jaguar CPUs, but they all have different clock speeds.
Yeah, which is something I'm interested to see if that changes. I actually responded back to them saying I'm wondering if, the way Ryzen came out with a good price to performance CPU, I'm wondering if that's going to have any impact on the new consoles.
If newer consoles, like when we start to see a PS5, if it'll actually have Ryzen.
No, maybe not Ryzen, but it'd have a better price to performance car.
The only thing about it is that the Jaguar CPU, if I'm not mistaken, is a mobile CPU.
Well, that's what it would be for a
laptop
console,
CPU. Technically, I don't say mobile, but a laptop CPU. So, do Ryzen have laptop CPUs yet? Like, do they have integrated CPUs that they put into laptops that you can buy with just a Ryzen board?
I do not know, actually.
Me
That's
either.
A good question. I don't like laptops. I don't ever look into laptops at all.
I use this one a lot, but mainly because I bought it because I needed it for this.
Yeah, I could literally throw this laptop across the wall right now and not care. I'd go buy another cheap one because that's all it is. But I hate laptops. But that's pretty much my stance on it, is that if there's going to be a wall, we need to work with the wall of technology that we hit. And it's not even sometimes it's walls. It's that the technological gains only help to give you, like the more and more processing power you get, because we're really not close to the wall. But in the grand scheme of things, we are. Yeah, because the wall right now is like one issue is that there is no 1440p TVs.
I mean, what I want to say is
I'm curious if that could become a thing. Do you know much about panels to know if that could become a
I don't know about how that works. I don't. Your phone has got the normal, which always has a weird aspect ratio, 18:9, which is 2:1.
Yeah,
really
18:9 by 1440p.
But that's a 1440p screen. But normally, we had a standard 16:9 relation. Ratio
with
on our Nexus 6P, and it was 1440p.
Don't you?
Yeah,
yeah. They zoomed to pinch.
But even then, our 6Ps had normal aspect ratio screens at 1440, but that's the same as a 1080. So I don't know why it wouldn't, but I don't know enough about panels.
See, so I'm curious as to. I know they won't become a thing because nobody's gonna buy a 1440p over a 4K TV. Is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I guess.
So it's pretty much now.
From a consumer standpoint, it makes less sense.
Yeah, the only way to go from here is to hit 4K and to hit higher frame performances. And I'm talking about this from like a technological standpoint, not a creative standpoint. Because at that point, after we hit that, it's gonna be a while before anything like 8K comes out. And if it's gonna take
away 8K, because 8K is where I'm going. When you talk about from a visual standpoint, what we stand to gain more from a technological standpoint is when consoles and games have more access to better CPUs. When they can use better CPU stuff to do better physics and things like that, that's important. Because what we're seeing right now with this console generation, again, World's End, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding seems pretty actually solid on this one, is that the CPU can't do everything they need to do. So the developers are finding ways to offload some of the CPU stuff onto the GPU.
Which is doing the whole extra memory split, right?
Which is part of why the whole CPU and the system and everything shares the same 8 gigabytes of RAM. it's a mixture of being video RAM when it needs to be video RAM, and
I think it's called ESRAM.
ESRAM's only in the Xbox One.
Well, that's what I'm talking about on the Xbox One.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what that's called when they offload parts of the CPU to the RAM on the Xbox One. I think that's what isn't that what ESRAM
Well,
is?
it's like super fast RAM that they can offload things into, so it processes
real quickly. Okay,
but on all that, that's where technologically we stand to gain in gaming. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of visual things that can be done too. Assassin's Creed Origins, I actually had a lot of fun with it. Really good game. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm glad. I don't feel like I wasted money. But the game is kind of ugly. Just in all sense of the game. It's a great game. I don't regret buying it. But if you look at it, definitely in comparison to stuff that's come out this year, it's ugly in comparison.
Well, and see...
so, of course, that's what I'm saying. From a technological standpoint, as we continue to hit, open world games can get more in-depth.
No.
Linear games hit a wall sooner than later.
Draw distances can get better. Water physics can get better. I'm talking about, though, big reasons on why you would...
Because visual fidelity goes away. 4K is already an issue. Some people can't see the difference between 4K and 1080. When you sit so far away, because
is it like what, 8
pixel density gets to be a thing where so far away you can't visually see the differences because of what it comes down to is that
I thought that was a myth.
8K is basically pointless because of diminishing returns. No, your eye can only see so much detail from a certain distance.
I thought. Well, I remember it being like 8 feet, I think, and I thought that was a myth about 4K because like we're
I don't know about that side.
I was gonna say because we're 8 feet away from your TV right now, pretty much, and I would be able to tell it's 4K.
Yeah, about like 6 foot, but still.
If I laid down, I would not be touching TV.
Just about.
No, that TV is a good distance away from us.
But regardless,
but see, like I don't think that like you could always say like that because that is something we are wanting better to be more immersed. We leaves falling and individual seeing those at a higher resolution and seeing draw distance
and all that comes into graphical power.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna. What you're gonna see less and less of is people looking more and more realistic. It's gonna be there, and there's room for it to grow. Definitely in open world games where there's more people, and that way these smaller individual NPCs can look better than they have. But you're gonna mainly games like Uncharted 4. They stand to gain more from physics, what they can do with physics, and being able to do that in 60 frames per second instead of 30 if you want them to. But there's a lot to be said. Games development is so weird that trying to talk about what a PS5 and PS5 Pro and Xbox, whatever they want to call it, would be is just almost impossible, and you don't know which way gaming is going to swing by then. With social gaming being more of a thing, the next consoles may have more power but have a bigger emphasis on the social side of things, which we already saw this gen. Social media is more ingrained in these consoles than they've ever been in any other console. And that's interesting,
especially with the new app update.
Yeah,
because it's basically like it looks like Facebook when you sign in.
It's
what I imagine Facebook
almost its own social media.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing. I don't really.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. It's just it's a whole different ecosystem kind of style to go for.
But anyway, I'm okay with it. I think that the idea, it has its ways of working. And like I say, it has to release later in the generation to make the console's price make sense.
I would say 5 years is a
4 years. Like what Xbox One's doing is fine. Honestly, if PS4 would have waited, but if PS4 would have waited to do a Pro exactly as it's spec'd now to what an Xbox is spec'd, it would have gotten demolished. The PS4 Pro doesn't seem as bad off because it's been on the market a whole year ahead of the Xbox One X. So that side's, whatever. Congratulations to Xbox for selling well on this.
Yeah,
that's good for them.
And that's good for us. People need to understand that competition between companies is
great.
Always good for consumers.
And even you saw Sony said congratulations on the big day.
Yeah.
And of course they take jabs at each other where they can, but they also generally respect the idea that competition drives them all forward. Right. But I think that they have a right to exist. They have a reason to exist.
Of course.
Where Sean comes in, where are people obsessed? No, but you want to see you want to see discernible differences in what's going on from generation to generation. Otherwise, why are you buying a new console?
That's what I'm saying, yeah, and you don't want to just advertise.
And that doesn't always mean, because No Man's Sky is a pretty game, but not because of graphical fidelity. It has an interesting art style, and it's got a huge universe that would not have been possible on the PS3. That's all it comes down to.
And Callin Moriarty, he's always said it best. He's like, yeah, the games look pretty, they play pretty, but are they different than the last gen?
Are they doing anything different?
They're not like games themselves. from a developing standpoint aren't different than what they used to be, which I think is mainly because we've pretty much done a lot of stuff that we've seen in gaming.
It's because we still haven't seen CPUs go up. Physics and things like that. That's why he even mentioned that No Man's Sky was interesting, because it was at least trying to do something that you feel like when you look at couldn't have been done on a previous console.
Yeah, and see, like I love the day that like whenever I'm playing Skyrim and like they did it in Drake's Uncharted 4. I keep want to say Uncharted 3 for some reason. Yeah, where that he was running along the side of a dirt mountain. He saw dirt falling down as he ran, and it wasn't pre-scripted dirt, or it might have been, but where it wouldn't go before his foot hit it. The second his foot hit it, you'd start to see it.
Yeah, and like when they're dragging you around in the mud's taking up on your jeans, and it's actually leaving ruts in the mud.
Stuff like that is something to look forward to. It's just hard to market that. So I think that's why I think that.
Well, you can market it, and they do market it. And that was actually one of the big things they used, but the game also just looked beautiful. Well, so I mean, I don't know. Yeah. And there's a little bit to be said about games doing things. Yeah, because games are. He's saying from a gameplay level, they're not any different.
Yeah, and they are.
You can still make a game that plays exactly like Uncharted on PS2. You may have to scale a lot of things back to make that possible, but you can do it. Yeah, and I mean, and I agree with that sentiment as a whole. I think that there's examples of games that are coming that just couldn't have. You couldn't have done Destiny 2 on a PS2. You just couldn't have.
No, excuse me. There are tons of games that show creativity right now too.
So I mean,
not to say like anything Yoko Taro's done is creative, like it's one of a kind originality.
Yeah, and I mean, he's saying that games are, and again, smaller games. I mean, you want to talk about like that? There are VR. VR is a perfect example of things you couldn't do back then. There's other games like games that use the motion controls and stuff in a weird way. You couldn't do that back then. Motion controls didn't exist. As they find more interesting ways to use these newer technologies like Move and like VR and like Vive and all these other VR options, games are going to get different. But with all of what's going on with PS4, PS4 Pro, and Xbox One, Xbox One X, I don't think that they're completely gone. They're not alienating game groups, which I think is smart, because we saw Nintendo do that with the 3DS XL, the new 3DS XL, and the new 3DS, where they're while being very very little games, but there are some games that only work on the new 3DS.
I know Xenoblade was one of them, but like I think it was out with you, or maybe
wasn't it like a new Fire Emblem or something that's only
No, I thought I remember seeing a case or like even a like a display case for a game that hasn't came out yet. I'm like, why does that look weird? I'm like, oh, it's a new 3DS game.
Yeah,
there's like 4 of those.
It's weird. And that's why I'm glad that Xbox didn't do that. Now, don't get me wrong. From how long it's been,
because at that point it's a new console. Just call it something different. If you're gonna do it on a large scale, like Nintendo didn't. I still think that's a dumb. I don't mind all of Nintendo's reiterations. That one I did. Like it was a dumb one.
The bigger thing that's gonna be weird is that Xbox is really pushing, even though it's a much more considerable jump in power than the Pro was with the Xbox One X, they're still acting like it's a iteration of Xbox One when it didn't have to be. So it makes you wonder, will Xbox ever make another traditional console? And we know PlayStation's going to, but that's going to be the bigger thing. Take away, I guess this whole conversation leads to the point that if you take away the PS4 Pro and the chances of the PS5 Pro, what happens if PlayStation is the only one that comes out with a traditional next console that only plays PS5 games, or that PS5 games only play on, but it can still play everything else, whereas Xbox keeps coming out with these consoles that every one of their consoles, including the Xbox One, can play? It seems almost impossible.
So you're saying like a universal PS4 system that can play the new ones and the old ones, and you're saying a Xbox console that can only play the new ones?
No, flip that, because
that's right.
Because PlayStation are saying they're going to make a traditional console, PlayStation 5, which sounds like it's going to be to where any game that comes out that's a PS5 game will not play on PS4. But Xbox One X, in the way they've marketed it, even though it could have been a new console, they could have made it exclusive. Or if you can
still play the games that you play on Xbox One X on the original Xbox One.
Yeah, but what happens if they do that again? What if they come out with this Xbox One Z, let's just throw a random name onto it, and it's way more powerful than the Xbox One X, but still every game that comes out on it can still play on Xbox One? That'd be so crazy, but there's a chance that that's what we see.
It's brilliant, to be honest. Like because at that point you would eliminate backwards compatibility in a good way, though.
Well, you could by introducing forwards compatibility.
Right. That's a crazy thing. I never thought about it that way.
It's so weird. But
I'm not going to condemn them for that, because if they do something like that, that would be super interesting.
It's a weird business tactic, because people have no reason to upgrade unless they want the power. But I don't know.
I think that's the whole reason about buying a console now, is that like people won't buy a PS4 Pro, like Sean was saying, until his craps out, which is somewhat
that was
true.
Greg Middleton, but yeah.
Oh, I thought Sean said that. I'm sorry.
Sean has a Pro.
But yeah, that's right. He does. Yeah.
Well, depends. Sean Santarud has a Pro.
Yeah, to me, Sean's here. But yeah, I have a Pro. I don't have a 4K TV. I like the performance I get from it, so
it's still worth it to you.
it's worth it to me. It was worth like $100 or $80. I forgot how much I paid for it after trading everything in.
Saul, this has been a long episode.
How long? Yeah, we're here probably at 2 hours.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, Saul, anything else you want to add?
No.
This is this has been episode 34 of Triangle Squared, and until next week.
You got the episode wrong.
34?
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I thought I messed with you before you left.
I hate you.
Until next week, you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.